Tatum drives down and throws it down. Bases loaded. 2 out. Hard hit into right. Back at the wall. Tie game. Big Puppy.
No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Anything possible! Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Kicking It with Kruse. I am your host, as always, Ben Kruse. We got a ton of stuff to get into for our show this evening. We plan to have Isaiah Leon from our network come on fairly soon. But before we have him on, for those that are just joining for the first time, welcome. And for those that are returning, welcome. Tonight, we're going to get into pretty much all the regular sports that I usually cover. Baseball, NFL, basketball, maybe a little bit of college football. Obviously, it's been a crazy month full of sports. And now we're into the first month of the first show of the new month, which is November, which is crazy to think. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe to all of our stuff on the IM6 MI6 network. Greatly appreciate it. On YouTube and Facebook, that's pretty much where we put a lot of our content specifically. And make sure to follow my other show specifically that I'm a part of, and that is Empty the Bench Network, which I'm a co-host for. Joining a show on the other show that's football related. I actually put the follow the Empty Bench Network right here from my other podcast. I'm a part of a football show that records every Thursday night, and we put our stuff on Fridays. So obviously very good stuff on that network, and of course for this network specifically, like I mentioned, follow, comment, like, subscribe onto the MI6 and IM6 network. And then also want to thank everybody that was on the last watch party with us. We really, really appreciate that. Great stuff as always. And we plan to have more watch party stuff as the rest of the year goes on here. So with that being said, guys, let's start with our show for tonight. And I think we will start with baseball, as now the baseball season has officially came to a close. This past week specifically, we crowned a champion, and that champion specifically is a new champion that we're not been accustomed to seeing, as the Texas Rangers defeated the Arizona Diamondbacks 3-1 in this World Series to win their first World Series. And I got to say this, well deserved for that Rangers team. I thought that with a new coach in there and Bruce Bochy, a new manager, I should say, and, with guys like Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Josh Jung, Jonah Heim, and of course their pitching, you had Nathan Eovaldi, absolute bulldog, Jordan Montgomery. This was even too with Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer. Basically, their number 1 and 2 come into this season, pretty much being shut down for about a half of the season because of injuries. But the Rangers did a really good job being able to handle a lot of their adversity that came with them. And they seem to be the best team really in this playoffs when adversity hit them. I also want to congratulate the Arizona Diamondbacks for a great, well fought playoff run that they had. A really young group that I think is going to really be there for the long term for sure. They got a lot of great youth and young pieces there, including star Corbin Carroll. Gabriel Marino really shined in this playoff run. Heck, they went through the Brewers, the Dodgers, and the Phillies. So, I mean, they really had a great showing. Of course, their pitching played really well. Brandon Pfaadt really shines. Obviously, they had Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen. So, obviously, Torey Lovello, too. Their manager, Torey Lovello, who's a former Red Sox, I knew really well with the Red Sox. Uh, he did a great job with that team, and I expect that team is going to fight for the next couple of seasons. They got something really brewing for sure over there in Arizona. But really, for this Texas Rangers team, like I mentioned to them, congratulations for the first ever World Series. They obviously overcame the curse of their World Series loss to the St. Louis Cardinals. Of course, the famous call from Joe Buck on the David Freese home run call, which I don't think many Ranger fans don't ever want to remember again from 2011. But they finally get the monkey off their back, and you know, as a non-Ranger fan myself, it's really cool to see a lot of teams that haven't won anything to finally win what they can win, because it's just an awesome opportunity. It's an awesome feeling for a team like this, and to get rewarded at the end, I think was really awesome for them, for their fan base. And, it's really hard to not only get to the top, but to win it. And now the biggest thing about Texas is trying to get back. It's one thing about winning it once, but it's trying to get themselves back. And, you know, they have a really good shot to make a chance at it possibly next year. I mean, they got a really good group next year, probably once again. A lot of their pieces are still there right now. So I think specifically for this Texas Rangers team, they can go out and make some pieces possibly, maybe even a guy like Shohei Ohtani, aka the best player in the world. We'll have to see specifically what happens to the Rangers this offseason. But congratulations to Texas. Really well deserved. And I'm really excited to see in terms of what this Rangers team, can do from here on out. I know our colleague Isaiah Leon picked the Texas Rangers to win the World Series before this playoff run. I give my my tip my hat to Isaiah for that, because obviously he was fortunate enough to win $50 from that. So that was pretty cool to see from that specifically on that overall call there from Isaiah. And yeah, just great stuff from the Rangers, and it was a great season in terms of baseball. A lot of great stuff specifically. It's obviously really comes to a unfortunate halt when the baseball season is officially gone. But with that being said, now we're in the off season, which means that we have free agency coming up, which will officially begin on Monday. And then also you'll have some trades that will probably be coming in pretty soon as well, throughout this next coming week. So a lot of great stuff should be coming in pretty soon. If you guys have any, comments specifically in terms of any predictions, because that's what I'm actually going to get into next with some of these players. I'm obviously not going to get through all of these specific, players with the teams in terms of the explanations, but I'm probably going to get through a decent amount of the list and then some trade predictions with some of these players specifically. And for those that don't get the chance to see some of my stuff from tonight, we're going to have a batter rep show, which is one of our other shows here on this network this next coming week. Me, Isaiah Leon, who is my colleague that will be coming on later tonight on this program, and then Laura Antonio, who is one of our other colleagues. We will plan to have a roundtable show of batter up this coming week, and pretty much just kind of going through at this point in time now. Probably a little more in depth in terms of some of these players, some of these signings. And this will be kind of you guys' first glimpse of the overall MLB offseason as World Series is done. Here we go now. The pretty much the offseason is not sleeping, I guess if you want to say this. So without further ado, let's get into some of these predictions here. So I will obviously start in terms of some of the big household names that I think a lot of people have been talking about already. And number one is, of course, the player that everybody has their eye on. The big ticket, if you want to essentially, think about it. If you're going out for an Easter egg hunt, right, and you're trying to find that big egg in terms of, with a lot of the money and stuff like that, this is obviously the big egg with a lot of this money because this is you know, a talent that we're probably never going to see ever again in the game of baseball. Somebody that I love personally seeing that I got for the chance to watch live at Fenway Park this year. That is Shohei Ohtani. He's been obviously been playing for the Angels for a long period of time. And for a guy with his caliber, a two-way player, which we never see really ever again, ever in baseball. Now Shohei obviously is going to not pitch this upcoming season because he's going to be undergoing, I believe, Tommy John surgery, so he won't be eligible to pitch until 2025. But he is obviously going to be batting, and for a team for his services specifically, I'm expecting a 11 to 12 year type deal. And for Shohei Ohtani, my prediction for Shohei Ohtani is he's going to become a Los Angeles Dodger. I think that him personally, he wants to stay on the West Coast. And obviously, he's going from one LA team, I think, to this other LA team that is in contention year after year. That will probably pay him the most top money because I think that's obviously what he's going to look at specifically. And I just think him staying on the West Coast. My other team specifically to watch out for Shohei are the Giants and the Mariners. Obviously the team from the East Coast that I think could definitely give him a lot is the Mets because they have a billionaire as in Steve Cohen. So we'll have to see about Ohtani, but Shohei Ohtani will be officially becoming a free agent to sign with any team come this Monday. So let the Ohtani saga begin. This whole weekend is going to be awesome to see specifically where Ohtani ends up. But I have Shohei Ohtani becoming a Los Angeles Dodger. The next guy here on this list is going to be pitcher from the Padres and Blake Snell. I think with Blake Snell, he had a pretty good year last year. He's a southpaw pitcher. He's obviously had a little bit of problems with his walk rate, but I think for the most part, he is a very solid pitcher. There's a lot of suitors for Blake Snell, but if I had to pick a team for Blake Snell for him to go to, I'm gonna say the Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles really need some help in their starting pitching, and I think with Blake Snell, you put him into kind of that top, you know, part of the rotation. Remember, obviously they have Kyle Bradish, Dean Kramer, Grayson Rodriguez. They got some pretty good righties really in their rotation. And outside of John Means, I think you have a guy like Blake Snell as a southpaw, as a lefty specifically. I think that could really help strengthen that rotation for the Baltimore Orioles. So that's where I have Blake Snell going here. The next pitcher, I think somebody that really had a great playoff run. He's been really good pitcher in the postseason is Aaron Nola from the Philadelphia Phillies. I think with Aaron Nola, you get a guy that's an innings eater. He's just an overall bulldog when it comes to the playoffs. So I think it's going to come down to probably two teams with Aaron Nola. It's going to probably go either return to the Phillies or going to the St. Louis Cardinals. And for me, I think that he's going to walk from the Phillies and go to the Cardinals. The Cardinals really need some pitching. Obviously, Jordan Montgomery and Jack Flaherty left from them last year, as the Cardinals obviously had a really tough year. I think that Nola goes into their rotation and really help solidify their top half. The next guy I think is somebody that outside of Ohtani, the biggest Japanese phenom that a lot of people are going to watch out for, and that is Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Obviously, he has an electric stuff. I think for this overall team, they're going to strike out and get an Ohtani So I think that this team is going to get him, and that's the New York Mets. The Yamamoto to the Mets sounds very, um, you know, that feels real to me. I think that there's going to be a lot of teams, including the Yankees, including the Dodgers. But I think that Yamamoto to the Mets is really something that I think they're going to pursue. Of course, Kodai Senga, someone that he knows pretty much connected. You have him with Senga. I think that would be really awesome to watch. Next guy here is one of the best other bats out there in free agency, and that's Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger had a great 2023 campaign with the Chicago Cubs. Obviously, kind of last couple years beforehand, really kind of struggled to kind of feel himself, kind of from his old Dodger days, but he really blossomed back onto the scene. Uh, so he's going to get a hefty payday. And he actually today declined his mutual option, which means that he can go out there and test the free agency waters. Now, I still think specifically for Bellinger that he can return back with the Chicago Cubs, but with that being said, I think the Cody Bellinger is going to go to a place where they need an outfielder bat and a lefty outfielder bat, and that's going to be the New York Yankees. I think that Cody Bellinger, the Yankees, would be a great fit. As painful as for me to say because I'm a Red Sox fan, but Cody Bellinger with the Yankees sounds like something that Brian Cashman and company would do. And so that's where I have Cody Bellinger going. The next guy I have here is a reliever, probably the best reliever I think on the market, and that would be Josh Hader. Josh Hader from the San Diego Padres. Hader has been absolutely incredible for many seasons. He's been pretty much great every pretty much place that he's been to, whether it's been the Brewers, whether it's been the Padres last year. And I think I have two places for Josh Hader. I have the Phillies. They need obviously some really strengthening their back end, and I have the Texas Rangers. The Texas Rangers were a really tough team to watch, specifically hold down games last year. So with that being said, I'm going to have Josh Hader going to the Texas Rangers. Next guy I have on here is Matt Chapman, third baseman from the Toronto Blue Jays. Chapman, I think, his back kind of wasn't as great last year, but he is obviously a phenomenal defensive player. He's a Gold Glove winner in the past. He's obviously was on kind of those key Oakland A teams that were kind of within contention for many years. But Chapman could definitely give a team of serviceable bat, a really really good glove, and a team that really needs some help at third base. So it's kind of tough for me to see in terms where Chapman will end up. But I don't know. I feel like he could be somewhere where they might overpay for him. It could be, a couple places, maybe a good team like the Cubs, maybe the Giants. I could see the Cubs going after Matt Chapman in this situation. The last 4 or 5 guys I have for agency that I'm going to mention. The first guy is Jordan Montgomery. Obviously, Texas Ranger, who they just won the World Series. Jordan Montgomery is going to get hefty payday. Once again, he had a phenomenal second half of this Rangers team ever since that he got moved from the Cardinals. Really gave him a lot of great innings, and he's more of a number 3 type pitcher, but he acted in this playoffs with the Rangers like a number 2. So, I mean, I think that there's going to be some teams to take a look at in terms of Montgomery might get paid like a number 2 pitcher, so he might get a little bit of overpay, but he deserves to be that after what he performed in this playoff specifically. I want to roll Texas Rangers. A return is definitely possible. The Yankees possibly reunion maybe with the Yankees. And a sleeper team to watch maybe is the Phillies. But with that being said, I have Jordan Montgomery going back to Texas, and I think the Rangers are going to keep him. I think it's just a really good spot for him, and he really blossomed there. My next guy here is Eduardo Rodriguez. Obviously, Erod has been a pitcher that was on my Red Sox for a couple years, and he went over to Detroit. He pitched fairly well this past year with the Detroit Tigers, and reportedly today that I guess that him and the Detroit Tigers are still trying to maybe make potentially a possible type of agreement before Monday, where teams have to kind of figure out specifically if they're going to go out and be becoming free agents or not. So, uh, but I think that he's going to go out. I think that Rodriguez will kind of test the market, kind of see where there is. And so, with that being said, with Eduardo Rodriguez, I have him going to the Philadelphia Phillies. Especially if I have Nola moving on, I think that Rodriguez could be in that rotation, give them length, give them a lot of innings, and I think that would just be another great spot for that Phillies team for sure. Especially you have him, you have Wheeler. They probably wouldn't seem to miss a beat over there. My other guy here I have is JD Martinez. Obviously JD, former Red Sox. He's kind of been around the block. He was just on the Dodgers this past year. This is a guy specifically that he won't give you a lot of speed, but he's going to give you a great bat. He batted 271 with this Dodgers this past year. Had 117 hits, 103 RBIs. He obviously his strikeouts are up a little bit this year, but a team that's in need of a DH bat, there's gonna be a lot of teams out there for him. I wouldn't rule out obviously him going back to the Dodgers. I obviously wouldn't rule out him going to a couple other teams specifically that are linked for him. Um, but that being said, I have him re-signed with the Dodgers. I think that it's just a really good fit there. My last two, I have Rhys Hoskins and I have Lucas Giolito. Rhys Hoskins. So Rhys Hoskins, I think is going to get moved. I think the Phillies really like Bryce Harper at first base. So I think that the next situation would be Rhys Hoskins in terms of where he ends up. So I think specific for Rhys Hoskins, there could be a couple places, maybe the Brewers, maybe the Angels. Um, you know, I just those other teams probably that I'm probably thinking of. But for Rhys Hoskins, I want to roll out him going to Seattle. You know, going out west. Being the American League, something new for him. And so I have him. I Rhys Hoskins going over to play for the Mariners. And my last free agent that I have here, and like I mentioned, I'm gonna get through all the free agents because we'd be here all night. But at least for now, Lucas Giolito. Obviously, Giolito, he's been I think in the Cy Young consideration for a couple years. Back in the day with the White Sox, he's had phenomenal stuff. Now Lucas Giolito kind of had a whirlwind of last year. So he started with the White Sox. Then he got traded to the Angels. The Angels obviously got him, and they got let me see, Matt Orr. I believe the Angels obviously made some moves at the deadline, but it kind of came back to bite them because the Angels really started to fall down in the second half of their season. They fell down so bad that the Angels placed Giolito on waivers, and so any team can pick him up. He got claimed by the Guardians out of all teams. He played for the Guardians for a little while. Wasn't as great. Giving up a lot of home runs early on in games. Just stuff wasn't great. But overall, Giolito, he's going to be an innings hitter. He's going to give you the strikeouts. He still has fairly decent stuff. And I think for me specifically, this feels like a move the Red Sox will make. I think that the Red Sox really need some innings early on in games specifically. And I think that you place him in like the number 2.5 to 3. Because Bayo really has to become their number 3 this year. The Red Sox really need to focus on getting a number 1 and a number 2 this offseason. Trade predictions. So obviously we have 5 candidates. These names specifically, they could be on the block. They could be on the block. They might not. But there's some real smoke specific in terms of some of these specific ones. So my first pitcher would be Corbin Burns. Obviously a pitcher that obviously expressed his frustration for a couple of years with the Brewers. terms of his contracts. But he has obviously been one of the best pitchers in baseball for many years. You know, every year he just continues to obviously put on great stuff. He had a 1 whip. Oh no, I'm sorry. He had a 1.7 whip this year. He was 10-8, 3.39 ERA. You know, the last 3 seasons he's had at least 10 or more wins. So that should explain a lot to a lot of people. And you know, he can obviously give you a pretty good return back for any type team. So my 2 spots I think for Corbin Burns that I think could be really fascinating to watch out for is the Dodgers and the Mets. I think that those are really 2 spots. As now we welcome Isaiah Leon here. Isaiah, welcome. Glad for you to join, my friend. Obviously, kind of going through some of these names as the MLB offseason is among us. I kind of got through already the World Series stuff, and of course, maybe we could save that for the end because I know obviously that you were very, very excited about that. So, but before we continue with this offseason stuff, Isaiah, how are you doing tonight? We're now in November. The spooky type season is over, and now we're focused on November. We got the end of this month. We got some Thanksgiving. In terms of sports, we're kind of now going to the crunch time with a lot of these sports because December will get started. It's a bowl season, which I don't even know where to start. It feels like this whole season's gone on like this already. So man, how are you doing tonight? Though it's been obviously definitely a hot minute since we've talked.
Yeah, Ben, it's great to see you. All I just gotta say is, how about those Texas Rangers, man? World Series champs. I mean, I can't believe it. It's been like almost 3 days since it happened, and I still can't believe it. You know, I remember back in 2011, on my TV at home watching the Rangers Cardinals World Series, and at that time I wasn't a huge Rangers fan. I just wanted them to win that World Series because I was kind of sick of the Cardinals. I wanted the new team to win it, and the Rangers, I felt bad for them because they had lost in 2010 to the Giants, and I wanted them to just redeem themselves. And just seeing that game 6, I remember that game off the top of my head where they were literally 1 strike away from winning it all, and then David Freese hits a fly ball to right field, and Nelson Cruz misjudges it, and then it ends up being a triple. I believe a run scored, or there was a runner on base. He hits the triple, and then that scores the run to tie the game. And then in the 12th inning, the Rangers, they had an opportunity. I think they had like bases loaded, 1 out. They couldn't get the guy home, and then the bottom of that inning, David Freese hits that walk-off homer, and all his history right there. So I mean, very happy for the people in Texas, especially Arlington and Dallas, that area. Very happy for Ranger fans everywhere because the Rangers, and then you probably would agree with me, the Rangers were kind of like the perpetual chokers of baseball in their entire history before they actually won one this time. They would always get close. They would always get close, but then they would always blow it at the very end. So when Spurs got 2 strikes on Marte, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to celebrate yet because I was kind of, I kind of told myself, we've seen this movie before where the Rangers 1 strike away and then they managed to give it up. Maybe 1 strike away, Marte's going to reach, another guy's going to reach, another guy's going to reach, and then it's going to be, you're going to blow a 5-0 lead just like that. But, I mean, when Spurs threw that strike, I was just so jubilant, so ecstatic because this was actually my prediction before the season that the Rangers would win the World Series. I had Rangers and Dodgers, but just to see that prediction come true, to redeem themselves from 2011, and just to see, all the fans in Texas finally get that curse lifted up them, to see the ceiling, metaphorically speaking, finally get broken through. I mean, it was a moment like 50 years in the making, and I think the Rangers are kind of Georgia, the Bulldogs of football, where they had gotten close so many times, just never, always choked it away. It just takes that one moment where you're like, okay, we finally broke through, and then you start winning a lot of championships. So happy for the Rangers. Happy for myself for winning some money. And yeah, it's been a great week so far in sports. I mean, we got Alabama, LSU tomorrow. We got Kansas State versus Texas, Clemson versus I believe Clemson's playing Florida State tomorrow. I might be wrong on that,
Notre
but
Dame.
a lot of great NFL. What's that?
They're playing Notre Dame.
Oh, okay. So they're playing Notre Dame. So yeah, a lot of they're
Florida
playing Notre
State's
Dame. That's
playing
going to be a fantastic game. Okay. But yeah, we have a lot of great games both in college and also in the NFL. And I mean, how about that the NBA in-season tournament? I mean, first night, and we've gotten a lot of really, really good games so far, especially that Thunder Warriors game where I really vehemently disagree with the ending of that one.
All right, and we'll get to a lot of that stuff later on in the program. But Isaiah, like I mentioned right now, obviously in terms of what we're talking about right now is the off season, and hopefully, of course, like I mentioned before he came on, we are going to have a batter up special with me, you, and Loro probably this coming week. So the baseball season is not stopping, folks, and I know for a lot of people that thought that this World Series was AKA boring. Well, now here's the fun part. If you feel like the whole thing was boring, here comes hopefully your popcorn and all that fun stuff because, they pretty much said that once the World Series is done, we're getting into the off season, we're getting a free agency, and it's going to be really fun and exciting because there's a lot of speculation already. There's already now players that are they're exercising their option, which essentially means that they're essentially staying with the team for this next coming year for another year under contract. Or there's some guys that are declining mutual options, which means that they're going to test the waters in free agency. Couple of guys already that have declined their options. Liam Hendricks, which was wow. I mean, that's crazy for the White Sox to let that happen. Justin Turner for my Red Sox, they declined his option today. Corey Kluber, which I'm not surprised about. But really, Justin Turner and Liam Hendricks, Cody Bellinger today was another one. So it's going to be absolute wild offseason, Isaiah. And I just want to get your overall quick thoughts about how you feel this offseason is going to go. And then we're going to get to some predictions. Specifically, we're actually kind of in the trade prediction segment, but I will obviously ask you a couple that I obviously kind of predicted already that I'll give you some names, and I guess you could predict some before we get into some football stuff. So what do you think about this offseason, Isaiah, and how you're going to feel about it?
Yeah, Ben, I think you hit the nail on the head. This is going to be an absolutely crazy offseason. It's going to be bonkers, man. I can't wait for it. This is going to be the off season of Shohei, obviously, because he's the top free agent out there. There's really nobody that can even rival his standing at the top of the free agent market. So, it's going to be really interesting to see where he goes. It's going to be very fascinating. I kind of liken this to when LeBron became a free agent and every team was basically lining up to try to get him. You're going to see that this offseason with Shohei. I just can't wait to see where he goes because wherever he goes, he's going to instantly, like Bryce Harper did when he went to the Phillies or when Manny Machado did when he went to the Padres or when Corey Seager and Marcus Semien did when they went to the Texas Rangers. He's going to make any team that he goes to, he makes them instant contenders and instant credible. So I can't wait to see, and he'll change the entire landscape of baseball moving forward, especially if, my wild prediction comes to fruition and he actually, like I texted in the group chat the other day, he joins the Texas Rangers. I mean, you think about a team that won the World Series, and then they add arguably the guy who's the best player on the planet. I mean, that's going to be absolutely insane. But yeah, I think Shohei, that's a situation that I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what happens. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the managers, like what happens with the managers moving forward. I mean, you have guys like Craig Counsell out there. The Brewers could potentially need a new manager. The Padres, there's talks that, and James, if you were here, he'd probably be laughing his head off because He knows how bad of a manager this guy is, and that is Phil Nevin. Apparently, the Padres have interviewed Phil Nevin for their managerial job, and he's one of the contenders
Wow,
to
I
get
didn't
it.
know that.
So, yeah, San Diego just keeps doing like really ridiculous things. Brooke Showalter might go to the Angels. Yeah, there's a lot of like great talk everywhere about these managers, and I think one of the big things that we should take into consideration about the managerial market is, things might be starting to trend, Ben, towards older managers, old school baseball managers getting an opportunity. Because when you think about what Bruce Bochy did in his first year in Texas, what Dusty Baker did last year in Houston, it looks like all these guys that were, the analytics, the young managers, the old school managers, they're winning. They're just winning World Series championships, and they're a great at leading a clubhouse. And you don't see a lot of clubhouse problems, chemistry issues when they're in the mix, as opposed to these like analytic young guys that are just thrust in there as managers. So I think that we could be seeing a new trend towards veteran managers at the helm. And I think also you're going to see a lot of teams that I think that are going to spend a lot more money now, because as Texas proved it, you got to spend money. You got to spend money to win a championship. Texas, I think, spent like 800 million to win their championship. And yeah, those contracts that a lot of these players signed, those long-term 10-year, 13-year deals, they might not be worth it towards the latter parts of it. But if he brings in a World Series championship like Corey Seager did, I mean, whatever he does towards the end of his career, it doesn't matter, because he brought home your first World Series title. So I think we're going to see a lot of teams start spending money and start getting off that reluctancy train of handing out long-term big money deals.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think we're going to be bound to have the Otani madness, which, by the way, Isaiah, starts Monday. Free agency essentially opens up this coming Monday. So I know people say Mondays are boring, and yeah, it's obviously the first day off the weekend, and people have to go back to work. It's obviously not fun. But this coming Monday, you have the start of college basketball, which go Huskies, they open up their season Monday, and you have the start of MLB free agency. It's going to be a Monday that I'm going to be excited for this coming week, which is very you don't really say that often, so it's going to be awesome to see. All right, now we're going to go back to the overall program now, since we have you now on. We're going to do quickly some trade prediction talk. And of course, we'll get into some free agency with, kind of some guys from the free agency after, probably later. I'd say later on in the program, because I do want to kind of keep the show going here. So I have a couple names, Isaiah, that I floated out in terms of some trade prediction. Corbin Burns, Juan Soto, Shane Bieber, Fernando Tatis Jr., and Tyler Glasnow. 5 guys specifically that I think specifically have a very good chance to be moved. Corbin Burns specifically because I think that, we had some comments specifically about his arbitration last year. Brandon Woodruff's going to be a free agent after this upcoming season, even though he's going to be probably shut down this whole year because of injury. So I think that there could be a team potentially for his services this offseason. Juan Soto, of course, if it's not Shohei Ohtani, this feels like a guy that everybody's going to try to want to get. He's still obviously great and young. He's a blossoming superstar. And the Padres obviously have a ton of money, and, they're not going to be able to keep everybody. Fernando Tatis Jr., same thing. Budding superstar, of course. There might not be as many suitors because of his off-the-field issues, but when he is out there and he's playing, he is an absolute force. Shane Bieber, of course, this was a guy I think a lot of people talked about at the trade deadline. He didn't get moved. I think he might have a chance this offseason. And then Tyler Glasnow. The Rays obviously are a team that don't pay high in terms of their players. And I could see him getting moved as well, too. So I started with Corbin Burns, of course, before he came on here. Isaiah, in terms of that overall list, is there anybody else that you feel like that's going to get moved via in the trade market?
I think you hit the nail on the head with most of these guys. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who could be a potential trade candidate. Definitely, Juan Soto. A lot of teams are keeping tabs on that. I could definitely see maybe. Corbin Burns. Ben, Milwaukee's a team that I'm definitely looking at. I'm keeping an eye on, because whatever happens with Council, that's gonna really tip the scales as towards the Brewers' plans moving forward. Because if Council
Mhm.
leaves, then that Brewers team is going to be in an upheaval because you have new manager coming in, and it depends really who they replace him with. If they replace him with a veteran manager, that means they're going for it. But if they are replacing him with a young manager, I think the Brewers might be taking a step back and just being like, we're retooling, we're trying to, trying to moving we're trying to just build for the future. And I would not be shocked. I think this is like, I'm probably like dreaming when it comes to this trade candidate,
Very
but
good.
I would not be shocked if Christian Yelich is just tossed out there as a possible name, especially if the Milwaukee Brewers, who are not known as a team that is like willing to pay a lot of like pay money to or pay a lot of money to players, if
Mhm.
they shop Christian Yelich around, because I just have a feeling that they might be entering a phase where they're just trying to retool. So Milwaukee definitely is a team that I'm keeping an eye on. You mentioned with Burns and with Yelich, possibly we'll see what happens with that. But I think the other guy that I'm definitely keeping an eye on is Mike Trout. If
Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani leaves, yeah, if Ohtani leaves, and let's say they hire like a first time manager, which will clearly signal that they are in rebuild mode, then I think the Angels and Trout both mutually will want to part ways. Trout's at that
Mhm.
point of his career where he wants to play for a winning team. He's like in
Mhm.
his early 30s now. The Angels wouldn't. I don't think they would get a lot back for Trout, but like you would get rid of the contract. You would be able to have a lot more financial flexibility. Plus, you would get some assets back. So I think in both of those cases, I just feel like it's just beneficial for those two teams to just be like, you know what, we've done all we can with this partnership. Let's just hit the end button and end this partnership and just move on, because it just feels like that Trout would benefit from a new change of scenery. It feels like the Angels would benefit with him leaving, especially if Otani is gone. So yeah, Mike Trout is definitely on my list. And then I would say another candidate that is on my list of potential trades is, I'm looking at the Rays. I'm looking at Houston, because I feel like Houston, it's kind of that year where it's like the last year, right? Altuve and
Mhm.
Bregman are free agents after the season, next
Mhm.
season. So this could be a season where Houston's just like, you know what, we're going to go all in, see what happens. If we win, great. If we don't, well, then, we had a great run. So this might be like the last run of that Astros dynasty. And then another team that I want to take a look at is the Cleveland Guardians. They had a lose season
Mhm.
last year, new manager um, at the helm, and I just I just think that they're heading towards a reset as well.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of teams. I think that there's going to be a lot of overall teams specifically that are going to have a restart and an overall rebuild. So before Isaiah comes back on here, it looked like he had some connection issues, and that's not a shock in terms of with Isaiah. It looks like that he is already getting himself back on here already here. Um, so Isaiah, let's put our GM thinking caps on here and let's make some overall predictions here in the trade market. So with Corbin Burns to start off, I had two places I predicted before he came on beforehand. I have the Dodgers and I have the Mets. I think that the Dodgers really need some help with that front end of that starting rotation. Clayton Kershaw is obviously older. Julio Urias is obviously in a domestic, situation. So yeah, they have some really young pitchers, but the Dodgers, if they want to be in a win now, want to obviously go for a World Series. Um, Corbin Burns obviously at that top half, especially if they get a guy like Shohei Ohtani, who's probably going to come back in 2025. That Dodgers team, where you have Ohtani and potentially Burns locked up for the long term, that's a World Series type of caliber at the top of the rotation. You saw in terms of in the playoffs this year, you saw a lot of great 1-2 pitchers in terms of the Texas Rangers, of course. You had Evaldi Montgomery. And in terms of the Arizona, you had Gallen and Kelly. In terms of the Phillies, you had Wheeler, Nola. So I think for the Dodgers, that'd be a great fit. And then for the Mets obviously David Stearns, the connection there. And so those are the two teams I have for Corbin Burns if he got moved. What about you?
I have Dodgers as well. It just makes too much sense for it not to happen. They got a lot of great assets when it comes to the minor leagues that they could trade away. They have a lot of young talent as well that they could trade away. And also, you're right, they need pitching. And the Dodgers, Kershaw, I read a report today, he had surgery on his left shoulder, so he's going to be out until like June, I believe it is. So that's a big blow. Urias, I think he's a free agent. I don't know. Yeah, he's a free agent. I don't know who's going to want to sign him, though, because he's had so many domestic issues recently off the field. And then, you have, a lot. The Dodgers, they have a rotation that's filled with a lot of these young kids that have a lot of promise, but they always get hurt. So that's the problem with the Dodgers pitchers. I definitely see it because LA needs to upgrade their rotation. We saw the rotation was a big problem last year. Another team that I have on my list is Philly because Nola's a free agent. Wheeler has 1 year left. The Phillies, they definitely need another top-of-the-line starter, so that could make a lot of sense, especially with Dombrowski's aggressiveness at the trade market. So I could see that being what Philly needs. And then this might be kind of like an out of the blue one is the Houston Astros. They just saw Texas win the championship. Texas is not going away anytime soon. In fact, I can argue that Texas is going to get better, believe it or not. And they just won the World Series.
Yeah.
And I think they got DeGrom coming back next year. Scherzer's going to be back healthy. I mean, you could potentially have a rotation if you re-sign Jordan Montgomery of Evaldi, DeGrom, Scherzer, Montgomery. I mean, and then you have Dane Dunning and Andrew Heaney and Martin Perez all in the bullpen. Like, it's just crazy how loaded the rotation is. And that's not to mention John Gray is also in the rotation. So, the Astros, it's an arms race right now in the American League West. And I think that, like I told you, Ben and James, last week, that Rangers and Astros are going to be the new preeminent rivalry in the American League. And you've seen it. Like today, Corey Seager trod back at Alex Bregman when Bregman brought up the, we'll never know, or the, like, who said, like, the Astros not winning the division, we'll never know. And then Corey Seager clapped back today. Like, it's just going to be a rivalry for years to come. And the Astros, they need to do something because Texas is only going to get better after winning the World Series this offseason. And the Astros need starting pitching. I mean, they have Verlander, but he's like 40 years old. They have Framber Valdez, Javier, but he wasn't great in the postseason. They're just really consistent. Yeah, and Urquidy's like hit or miss too. So if you can get another guy there, kind of rival what Texas has, I think that would be great for the Houston Astros.
That would be scary if he went to Houston too. So we'll have to see about that. The next guy here is a guy I think a lot of people are going to want to see is Juan Soto. He's obviously been flying for I think a lot of teams so far. I got 3 teams for you right now in terms of Juan Soto. The Yankees. Even though I hate it, the Phillies, because of course the Washington connection. You already have Harper and Trey there. Imagine him at Citizens Bank Park hitting some bombs. That would be insane there. I think that Isaiah, you had that happy face there because I know Dombrowski goes for the home runs. You get a guy like Juan Soto in there. My goodness. And my other team is the Mets. I think that the Mets really, if they don't get Ohtani, I think that they're going to really try to get themselves high on Juan Soto. I would love the Red Sox, obviously, to take a look at him too, but I don't think they'll be in the mix for him. So those are my 3 teams. The Yankees, I would say the Dodgers, but I think that they're going to get Ohtani. So with that being said, I have him getting either traded to the Yankees, Mets, or the Phillies. What about you?
I actually don't think the Dodgers would get Soto because I don't think the Padres would trade him in the division. That's why. San Diego, unless they got like a Godfather offer for Soto from the Dodgers, there's no way because you would be foolish. And imagine AJ Preller, his reputation after trading Juan Soto to a division rival. Like, oh my God. People would be lining the streets up in San Diego just to protest and go after him. So, there's no way he'll trade him to the Dodgers. In terms of where he goes, I see a couple teams. I think that don't rule out the Baltimore Orioles. They have a young team there.
Ooh,
Um, They need a superstar. They have Adley Rushman. He's a great player. Um, they have a lot of young talent there. They need a veteran superstar who has been there and done it. So I think that I wouldn't rule it out because imagine his bat next to Rushman and all the young kids that they have there. I mean, it
like
would
it.
be absolutely scary. Um, Also, the the Giants, I think, are another team because the Giants
Yes.
need that. Yeah, they need that franchise player. Because ever since Buster Posey has left, they just haven't had it. And the Giants, they need a win now. Bob Melvin coached Juan Soto in San Diego. Um, Farhan is on the hot seat in San Francisco. They need to have a great year, so they definitely gotta get a star for sure. So I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't rule it out. Um, in terms of other teams, the Mets, because I think David Stearns wants to make a splash in his first year in New York. And the Yankees, they got to do something. Their fan base is definitely very upset right now.
Yeah.
They're not happy how the season went. So definitely New York and Philadelphia, obviously, with the connection to Bryce Harper and Trey Turner as well.
All right, we go to trade candidate number 3, and that's Shane Bieber. He was kind of been floating around at the trade deadline. He's obviously not been the same pitcher he once was. Of course, he still has pretty good years ahead of him. My team for Shane Bieber, I think, is 2 teams. I have him either going to Baltimore or the Cardinals. I think that the Cardinals really need some help at that top end. I think the Orioles need some help at the top end. So those are the 2 teams if Bieber did get moved from Cleveland for him to go to. What about you?
I got a couple of interesting ones. San Francisco, obviously, because I expect San Francisco to be in the market for a lot of big names out there because they just need to win now and they need a superstar badly. So I think they'll be in the mix. In terms of the other teams, Dodgers, if they miss out on Otani and they miss out on Corbin Burns, I could see that.
He could be the Lance Lynn replacement because Lance Lynn today declined his player as mutual option. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I think the Dodgers need a couple of arms actually this offseason, not just one. They need a couple of big arms to match up with the Rangers and the Phillies and everybody in the National League. I could see Philly just because if Nola walks, then you definitely need another front of the line starter. And plus, it would be a team that's like in the American League. So I think that the Guardians would be in. They won't mind trading Bieber to a team that's in the National League. So I could see that. Miami is another interesting one. I think Cabrera, Alcantara, they're all gonna miss next season because of Tommy John surgery. So they definitely need a front of the line arm. And St. Louis needs a lot of arms as well. Last year was just an awful season for the Cardinals. They need to get better pitching wise, and they gotta shake it up in St. Louis. So I could see the Cardinals being a team that's in the mix as well.
Definitely. Next guy, Fernando Tatis Jr. I was kind of thinking about this before the show, and some feeling about Fernando Tatis Jr. feels like a Red Sox to me. Pull hitter, but he goes the opposite field. Yeah, he has the stuff off the field. But the Red Sox really need to make a splash this offseason. Of course, with the AL East being really top heavy in terms of a lot of these teams. Yeah, we have Devers. I don't think we're going to go after a guy like Otani or a guy like Juan Soto. Fernando Tatis Jr., that just feels like a guy. He's exciting. He's young. The Red Sox really need some help at that middle part of that overall, infield. Yeah, they have Marcelo Meyer coming up specifically, but I don't think he's going to be ready, for maybe a couple of years here or there. Bring in Fernando Tatis Jr. He could be, in the outfield too, because the outfield right now outside of Yoshida, there's some you have Duran possibly, but there's some you can even put him at DH too. There's some potential options there. You can put Fernando Tatis at for the Red Sox. I think could be a really good one. Man, the Giants, even though it'd be in division, I want to rule that out. I really want it. So I have San Fran. Oh man. This is kind of one that I don't even know if he's going to get moved, so it's kind of hard to kind of feel right now in terms of where he could go. But what about you? Where do you think Tatis can go to specifically right now?
I'm with you, Ben. I don't think he's going to get moved because I think that he's signed so long term with the Padres. And the problem with Fernando Tatis Jr. is that it just seems like he's got a lot of character issues. It seems like, he rubs teammates the wrong way. He gets into a lot of these freakish accidents. He does a lot of stupid stuff off the field. And I think I said this during our MLB preview show, if I remember correctly, is that he's a ticking time bomb. Anytime that you don't know, anytime he could just do something stupid and just cost your team. So, I don't know if he'll get dealt. If he does get dealt, I could see it because the Padres, there's reports that they took out a loan last year just to pay their players. I mean, how pathetic could you be to take out a loan just to pay your players? It's just awful. But I think if he does get dealt, I think he'll probably get dealt to I'm trying to think like Philly, not Philly. I think it's tough. San Fran, just because they definitely need a superstar. Even though it's in division, something tells me Miami because that's where he's close to, like the Dominican Republic. So it's going to be kind of like home for him. So maybe he won't do something stupid there because it's home and he doesn't want to let his home fans down. So I could see it because the Marlins definitely need offense. Jorge Soler opted out today, which was a big wow that he opted out because I don't think anybody expected it. But I could see that being as a possibility. And Boston, I don't know. I just think the Red Sox, Craig Breslow, he's not going to make the mistake like Kyle Blue where he's going to go out and get a superstar and get Boston fans on his side. And that was Kyle Bloom's was when he traded Mookie Betts. That's when he became Red Sox fans' villains. I think that Craig Breslow, the new, not going to let that happen. And I think he's going to try his darndest to go out and get a super the Red Sox fans on his side and build up some credibility with them.
Definitely. I'm excited for the Craig Breslow era to begin, especially with a lot of the stuff that he said during the introductory press conference this week, which, I'll talk about at some point off the air, with you or, anybody that wants to talk about it. All right. We'll obviously say some of the free agency stuff at the end of the show, Isaiah, for you for baseball, because let's get into some football stuff. Week 8 concluded up this past week. So let's go through some of the final scores. Then we're going to get into our winners and our losers from week 8. And then we're going to go into week 9. Crazy, Isaiah, right?
Crazy. Can't believe it, man. We're in week 9 already. I mean, it feels like the season started like a month ago, and now all of a sudden we're in week 9. And can you believe it, Ben? The holidays are coming up. Like, it's just so crazy how the whole year has just flown by.
Definitely, man. Once you got through October, a lot of the sports, then you're going to start getting into some bowl season games with college football. You get to really some of the high-end games specifically, right? Edward Lee, thank you for joining, and thank you for everybody that joined. I bet like Shohei Ohtani will be on the Giants. Yeah, we'll have to see. Come Monday, it's going to be the day of the decision day of Shohei Ohtani. So,
I don't think he'll sign on Monday, though. I think he'll probably take his time, and if he signs, I think he's going to sign probably in January. Take the Christmas holiday, think about where you want to go, take free agency tours, take meetings, and then make a decision after that, probably.
Well, remember too, Isaiah, Shohei Ohtani right now is doing a film that's on, I think, Disney Plus or
That's right.
whatever. Imagine how insane it would be if he essentially dropped like an absolute bombshell at the end of the show, being like, "And yes, before I conclude, this is the team I'm signing with." Like the decision with LeBron, but it's in his overall
Oh
film.
yeah.
That
Oh
would be actually insane. Just because
yeah.
it'll be a couple weeks. People are like, "Why is he not being assigned anywhere?" And then he just says to everybody to watch this film and see where at the end of it. That would just be kind of crazy, but. I'm just maybe kind of just spewing out BS or whatever on that. So, but we'll have to
Ben,
see.
before we get off football, I don't know if you talked about Otani yet.
I did.
But
Yeah.
for me, I don't know why. I know we'll probably get into Otani and all the free agency picks sometime next week when we do our MLB wrap up show, and I think we'll probably do a batter up free agency preview special sometime either next week or in the next couple of weeks. But don't rule out Texas for Shohei. Do
I
not rule it
know.
out because
Yep.
they've been heavily scouting him ever since he was a teenager in Japan, and now like they were connected to him. I think at the trade deadline when there were rumors about is he available and this and that. Do not rule it out. Do not rule it out. They need a left-handed bat. They have Seager, but they are really heavy on the right side. And they do need a DH. They have Garver there, but I feel like Garver's more of a catcher, and he's more of like a catcher. I don't know if Heim's the answer at catcher because yeah, he's a great pitch framer, great defensive catcher, but he can't hit. And I know he hit a couple of home runs, but do not rule out Shohei. I don't know why. Like I just can't get that thought of Shohei and Texas out of my mind. And I've had that for like a long, long time that he might be a Ranger. So, and especially with you, Darvish, pitching in Texas and him saying how much he loved it there. So I could see that happening. And imagine the Texas Rangers that just won the World Series getting Shohei Ohtani to add that to Corey Seager and Garcia. And imagine that rotation. DeGrom in 2025, DeGrom, Scherzer, Ohtani. Who's going to beat that top three?
Yeah, they would definitely make the statement on Houston, I think, especially if Houston's kind of their run comes to an end and you have the new sheriff in town. That would be pretty fascinating to see. So the Ohtani stuff we'll kind of keep at least for now because that'll be not only the talk of baseball probably next week, but that could be the talk of sports this up next week. Yes, he might not sign an actual team next week, but the rumors and all the fun stuff, just get your popcorn ready and let this show, no pun intended, begin starting next week. So that'd be a lot of fun. All right, let's get into some football here. Week 8 recap here. We'll go to the final scores. So obviously Thursday Night Football last week, the Bills defeated the Bucks 24-18. The Cowboys defeated the Rams here 43-20. The Vikings defeated the Packers 24-10. Kirk Cousins left the game early. He is out for the season, unfortunately, for the Vikings. The Titans defeated the Falcons 28-23. The Saints defeated the Colts 38-27. The Jets squeaked out an overtime win against the Giants in an ugly, rainy game. The Jaguars defeated the Steelers 20-10. The Eagles defeated the Commanders in a high-throwing scoring game 38-31. The Panthers got their first win of the season 15-13. Isaiah, you did call the Panthers to win that one. The Seahawks defeated the Browns 24-20. The Broncos defeated the Chiefs. Wow. They snapped their long-term losing streak against them. Broncos defeated the Chiefs 24-9. The Ravens defeated the Cardinals 31-24. The Bengals defeated your Niners, Isaiah, 31-17. The Chargers defeated the Bears 30-13. The Lions defeated the Raiders 26-14. And the Dolphins defeated my Patriots 31-17. So that's all the week 8 scores. Now let's get into our winners and losers from week 8. So, Isaiah, I'll let you go first because I'm still kind of thinking specifically in terms of mine. There's obviously a couple that I do have. So if you already know yours, Isaiah, go ahead. Isaiah, do we have you?
Yeah, sorry, I I don't know why, but I kept pressing the unmute button, but it wouldn't turn off. But yeah, for my winners and losers of this NFL Week 8 is, wow, I would probably say, my biggest winners. Let's start with the winners. My biggest winners is the Denver Broncos. Ben, believe it or not, they started out really bad. Are the Denver Broncos back now? I mean, they're 3-5. They got a game against Buffalo, but after that game against Buffalo, they got a game against Minnesota, who just lost Kirk Cousins for the year. They have Jaron Hall starting now. Joshua Dobbs might be on his way, or he's on his way. But I mean, they got some winnable games after that. So I'm not saying the Broncos are going to win the division, but I mean, they could sneak in there as a potential wild card, and they're only a game and a half back. Like, can you believe it? The Broncos are 3-5 right now, and they're only a game and a half back. So I think the Broncos are definitely back now, and Russell Wilson looked so much better last week. The defense played outstanding. This is the Broncos team that I thought we were going to see at the beginning of the season, and that defense finally played the way that we thought they were capable of playing. Russell Wilson finally played the way that we think he's capable of playing. So I'm a big believer now in Denver, and I think that the Broncos, the reason why they didn't make any trades at the trade deadline was because they think that they can turn their season around. And I think that they can as well, especially with them now being at 3-5. And I'm not surprised that they beat the Chiefs, just because I think last week I said that I would not be shocked if the Broncos won, because the Broncos have historically owned Mahomes in his career. He's not, he's beaten them a lot. He's beaten them like 8 straight times. But when I say the Broncos have historically owned him, I'm saying when Mahomes plays the Broncos, he doesn't look like the godly quarterback that he is. He always just throws for like 180 yards, 200 yards. He looks like a mid to average quarterback. And against the Broncos defense, they just always befuddle him. I don't know why, but they always do. So, credit to the Broncos for winning that game. What a great win by Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos, winning that game on Sunday. The other winners that I have is, I know they lost the game, and I know that we were watching the World Series and we were kind of watching the game a little bit on Monday night, but my biggest winner, or one of my biggest winners, is James, because that guy has suffered through pathetic Raiders seasons throughout the Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler era. And we watched that game, all three of us, with our own eyes on Monday. And I still can't believe that Jimmy G missed that throw to Devontae Adams down the left sideline. I mean, I remember we were all like, just like, what? Like, we were all cracking up. Like, it was just a horrific misfire on the part of Jimmy G. And you could just see Devontae Adams goes to the bench right after he misfires the ball. He slams his helmet down, and you could see on his face. And I think he said it too. You could read his lips. He said that my guy is a bitch. You could see that. So you could tell there was disconnect in Raiderland. There were just chaos there in Raiderland. And, the Raiders lost, but McDaniels is gone now. Ziegler is gone now. The Raiders cleaned house, surprisingly, on Halloween night. And now, the Raiders, it feels like there's going to be a lot more juice. It feels like there's going to be a lot more chemistry now after McDaniels and Ziegler's departure. So definitely happy for Raider fans out there. And then I feel like the third winner that I had, is definitely the Bengals. I was a big Joe Burrow doubter at the beginning of the season. I said they needed to rest him. Yeah, you did. I said the Bengals were done, and Joe Burrow, he might be. We might need to start talking about him as an injury-prone quarterback. Well, Joe Burrow went into San Fran, went into Levi Stadium, and with my own 2 eyes, I watched Joe Burrow tear my Niners apart and basically send a loud and clear message to me that he's definitely 100% back. So, yeah, kudos to the Bengals. They definitely turned their season around, and they're looking like not just AFC North contenders, but they're looking like Super Bowl contenders again. So the Bengals are definitely one of my biggest winners. As far as the losers are concerned, in terms of the losers, I probably would go with the Niners because, I mean, that defense, you have all that talent there, and now you're sitting here ranked 25th in run defense. You're 13th in pass defense. Your defense is kind of mid now. Like, you can't be mid when you have Nick Bosa, Armstead, you have Hargraves, you have all the talent that you have on defense, Fred Warner, Greenlaw. You have all that talent, and you can't be mid. Like, that just cannot happen whatsoever. So very disappointed in the Niners. I mean, watching them get carved up by the Bengals like they did on Sunday. I mean, I just could not believe that was my team out there. I thought that, that was a team that, dressed up as the Niners on the couple days before Halloween, but it wasn't the Niners. It was just, I just didn't recognize that team. And, I just couldn't believe the embarrassing effort out there by the Niners. Especially on defense, and especially that offensive line who just could not block, and everybody was just blowing by them, whether it was the Bengals defensive line, the Bengals linebackers, the Bengals secondary as well. So just an embarrassing effort by the Niners. My other biggest loser, I probably would have to say the New York Giants. I mean, you're playing Zach Wilson, and you can't even do anything against Zach Wilson, and all you do is punt the football. Like, Brian Dable should be ashamed of himself for that. And I would not be shocked, Ben, if at the end of the season, I know he just won Coach of the Year, but if Bill Belichick is out there at the end of the season, I would not be shocked if the Giants fired Dable and went with Belichick, because Belichick has talked about his affinity for the Giants organization. He's talked about how he loved it there. And there's been rumors in the past of, could Bill Belichick one day go back to the New York Giants as head coach? Could he do it? And I mean, that would be a great way to wrap up his legendary career coaching the Giants. He would probably have head coach and GM powers, because I'm assuming that Joe Shane, if that happens, would be gone. And the Giants would definitely fire both Dabo and Shane to get Belichick if Belichick really wanted the job. So the Giants are definitely one of my biggest losers. They've looked pathetic this entire season. And I still cannot believe that they made the playoffs last year as the 6th seed in the NFC. And then my last loser, my last loser is I probably would go with the Commanders. I mean, you have all that talent on defense. Yeah, you traded everybody, but you have all that talent on defense before you traded everybody, and you ended up blowing another game. And Ron Rivera, he had another 4th down gamble, which he just epically failed at again. And the Commanders, they lost.
Really quickly, before we keep going, do you feel like Ron Rivera should get fired? I think he's gonna get fired. I don't think it's any doubt that he's gonna get fired, because they have a new ownership now there in Washington. They didn't hire him, and there's reports allegedly that the Commanders are looking at Belichick. I don't know if that's gonna. I mean, I could see it just because new ownership, they want to make a big splash. So I could see that happening. But if Bill Belichick's gonna go to another team, I don't think it would be the Commanders. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, I think if he goes to another team, it's going to be these two teams. It's going to be the Giants, because he's always loved the Giants organization. It would be like a honeymoon, or it would be like a great ending to his career. And I think this might be crazy to say this, but when the Raiders fired McDaniels and fired Ziegler, I was like, Bill Belichick might be going there, because you have Mark Davis, the owner, who loves the big names, and he loves the home run hires, and he's never afraid to, go out and get the big names. That's why I told James this when McDaniel and Ziegler were fired. Don't rule out these two names getting hired by the Raiders: Bill Belichick and John Gruden, because Mark Davis loves the big names. You got head coach and GM both out. Now you're looking for those two. You could potentially give a big name head coach, both head coach and GM powers. A big name is going to be coming to Vegas.
Yeah, we'll talk more probably on our next show in terms of some of the firings of some of these coaches, because now we're really at this point in season where we can kind of see specifically in terms of at the trade line just ended, some, in terms of some teams making some moves to help help for the second half of their season. Some teams are trying to sell. So we'll talk more about that next show. For me, for the winners and losers, so my winners, I'll start with this one. Give me the Panthers. First win of the season. They've been close in a lot of these games as of late, and Isaiah, you picked them. Bryce Young, congrats, man, for your first win. Every single time that you're a young type of quarterback to get your first win is obviously great. My other one, give me Denver. I got to give my credit where credit's due. Obviously you were on a winless streak against this team for so long, and you pretty much saved your season. You're 3-5. I mean, yeah, it doesn't look pretty on paper, but you still have a lot of season left, and you could turn your season around, especially when you beat a team like Kansas City, which is going to be probably one of the best teams by the end of it. I got to give them a winner there. And I know you picked Cincy over your Niners, Isaiah, but I'm going to go Jacksonville over Pittsburgh. That's a tough place to play. Trevor Lawrence, obviously, a lot of people had Steelers in upset, but I had, with the way that the Jaguars were playing they won their last 4 games. They continued it. Trevor Lawrence did have a pick on this one, but he threw for 292 passing yards. And Travis Etienne continues to find the back of the end zone. So the Jags are still playing really good football. They're 6-2. After they've had a pretty slow start to the year, but they've really started to kind of become the Jaguars that we kind of know and love by this point in time. My losers, the Giants. That game was absolutely horrific. I actually knew somebody that was at a tailgate for that game specifically beforehand.
God.
And, he told me to actually go inside the stadium for that one, but he's a Giants fan. That's brutal. My other losers, give me the Chiefs. I mean, you essentially, so you put up a lot of points in Arrowhead against the Chargers defense, but then you played against one of the worst defenses with Vance Joseph. Think about this, Isaiah. The Broncos gave up 9 points. Vance Joseph defense gave up 9 points to Patrick Mahomes, but then they gave up 70 points to the Miami Dolphins.
Yep.
By the way, those two teams are playing each other this coming weekend. That's the NFL for you. That's in terms of you just never know specifically each week who can win and who can lose. And I don't think that, and I told my brother this a couple of days ago, that there's some teams that you could look at and be like, they could probably win the Super Bowl, but there's not really that clear-cut favorite this year. Kind of compared to the last couple of years, it's just like, well, that's the team. Even your Niners, Isaiah, I mean, for a little while, I thought it was like, that's the clear-cut team, but it's just like teams battle with injuries. Team battle with, off weeks here and there. That's the NFL for you. So I had the Chiefs as one of my losers. I had the Giants as one of my losers. My other loser I have, Isaiah, is the Green Bay Packers. Something's going on with that team. Obviously Aaron Rodgers moving on. They're kind of feeling like the post-Brady Patriots in a way for a little bit. They're kind of starting to, they have Christian Watson there. They have Romeo Doubs. I didn't expect the Packers to win the division this year, but I also didn't expect them to kind of fall off kind of the way that they've been falling off. Jordan Love, I know it's obviously kind of his first full year over there, but he's thrown 11 touchdowns, but he's thrown a ton of interceptions. I mean, hear me out on this one, Isaiah. Ever since September 24th till now, he's thrown at least 1 interception. And for a young quarterback like that, throwing the ball in harm's way is never good. So I think maybe, I don't know if it's the offensive line. I don't know what's going on there. But the Packers are 2-5. They're kind of like Patriots are 2-6. They're kind of in similar situations right now. Something's a little off with them. So that's one of my losers for this week as well. So now let's get into our week 9 picks, shall we? And for those that are joining, thank you guys for joining. We do have a couple of viewers here still on. So if you guys have any predictions on our week 9 NFL picks, by all means, you guys put it into the chat. We'd love to see them. So let's go to week 9, Isaiah. So let's quickly go into recap the Steelers-Titans game really quick. The Steelers defeated the Titans 20-16. I gotta say this, Isaiah. Will Levis is kind of decent. I didn't expect a lot from Will Levis during the draft. A lot of people were kind of giving him a lot of crap in terms of his big arm, in terms of his accuracy issues. Yeah, he threw an interception at the end of this game the other night, but I feel like that Ryan Tannehill should definitely be on the move. Malik Willis, I've seen a little bit more from this guy in 2 weeks than I've seen from Malik Willis all last year and from Ryan Tannehill. I don't know if you agree with me or not. And you know who's really benefited already from Will Levis has been DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins and Will Levis' first game had 3 touchdowns, and then he had 11 targets. DeAndre Hopkins did against the Steelers. So I gotta say, I'm kind of riding the Will Levis train right now. Even though it's been 2 weeks and yeah, he's going to go through some flaws, this could be the guy long term for them.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very impressed with Will Levis. I think he's a really good quarterback. You know, I think that for him, you're right. He looks so much better than Ryan Tannehill. I mean, Ryan Tannehill, I like the guy. He's not a bad guy, but as a quarterback, he's a game manager. He's like Jimmy G, but Will Levis just gives you that extra like burst of excitement that you just don't have. So I really like the kid. I think that he's got a bright future ahead of him. Tennessee definitely needs to build around him. I'm surprised, however, Ben, that they didn't trade DeAndre Hopkins. I thought that he was definitely going to get moved because, it feels like the Titans are trying to get younger. It feels like Derrick Henry's going to be gone this offseason. DeAndre Hopkins is we'll see what happens to him. But, I mean, he's got what a situation for a rookie to walk into. Brock Purdy had the best situation last year, but Will Levis, you get that soft landing with you have a running back in Derrick Henry who you can give the ball to. You have a great weapon in DeAndre Hopkins who, he always makes those 50-50 ball catches every time. So I've been very impressed with the kid in his 2 starts. The first game he threw 4 touchdowns, which is something that you never see Ryan Tannehill have 4 touchdowns in a single game. And Will Levis had 4 touchdowns in his first start in the NFL. So definitely very, very impressed by him. And, I'm glad that they went and started Will Levis because Ryan Tannehill, let's face it, the thing with him is he's like a meh type of a meal. But when Will Levis shows up, it's like, wow, this guy's got that oomph in his in his system. So, yeah, I like what I'm seeing from Will Levis, and I hope he keeps it up.
We want to welcome Steven here on the program. Steven, thank you for joining. It's obviously been a
pleasure to be here.
Have you been? I know obviously we had you, Steven, on the watch party, about a week or 2 ago, so it's great to have you back on. So, Steven, we're now going to actually get into a week 9 pick, so it's actually kind of perfect timing here.
Let's get to it. And I'll let you know which ones are my which one are big wings, kind of big picks for the week.
Yeah, let's do it. So, a lot of great games, guys. Dolphins Chiefs. You start with 9:30. Grab your coffee. I know it's 6:30 on you guys' coast. For me specifically, I'm actually going to be driving up to Foxborough. I'm going to the Pats game on Sunday, so I can't wait for that. Even though the team hasn't been great, it'll be my first time up to Foxborough for the year. So I'm going to have to kind of find a way to kind of track this game as I'm driving up there. But you got 2 6-2 teams. You got the Dolphins obviously beating my Pats last week. You got the Chiefs obviously coming off a really tough loss. The Chiefs are 1.5 favorite. I'm going to have the Chiefs in this one, guys. But, man, this is going to be a track meet. I think that the Chiefs only scored 9 points last week. I don't anticipate that being the case this upcoming week. Jalen Ramsey helped a lot last week for the Dolphins secondary. Xavier Howard was out last week. They brought in Jalen Ramsey. Did a really good job for them. I think that – I don't know if Xavier Howard's going to be back this week or not, but I don't know. It's going to be tough, but I think the Chiefs respond here. I think they go to 7-2. And it'll be a really tight one. So I'll go to you, Isaiah, first. Who do you have in Dolphins Chiefs?
Well, first off, fellas, let's just say this. November is when football season actually begins because this is when you have crunch time.
Hey, this is when your team is on a 3-game losing streak.
Oh, stop. This is when you get crunch time. This is when you get the great game, The
Yeah,
early
I
game.
agree with him on that. The great games
Yeah,
kind of started this time.
November. I mean, look at college football this weekend. You have Clemson versus Notre Dame. You have Texas versus Kansas State. You have Alabama versus LSU, Georgia versus Missouri. And then in the NFL side, or you also have USC Washington. Can't forget about
yeah,
that.
I can't wait for that one.
And then
Don't
you have in
forget
the
about
NFL
A&M
side.
at Ole Miss.
Well, yeah, A&M Ole Miss as well. You have in the NFL, you got Chiefs and Dolphins, you got Bills and Bengals. You have a lot of really, really good games this
Seahawks
week.
Ravens.
Yeah, another really, really good game. So I can't wait for it. Chiefs and Dolphins. For this game, it's in a neutral field, so you're not going to have the two home crowds affect this game. It's going to be all about the talent on the field. Give me Miami. I don't trust the Dolphins defense. I mean the Chiefs defense. It's going to be a track meet, like you said, Ben. It's going to be like a game that's like 45-41, like it was Colorado TCU. I don't think you're going to see a lot of defense in this game. But it's going to come down to whoever has the ball last. And I think that the Dolphins will have the football last. They're probably only going to be a combined like 2 stops.
We lose Isaiah?
I don't know what he did.
Yeah.
Do we have you?
Yeah, we do. So, for me, I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to win, although I agree with you, Ben, that this could be a trap game. But, we're getting the better team here. I know it's in London. I know that we saw kind of Josh Allen and the Bills struggle against the Jags. Anything on any given Sunday, especially when you're playing overseas. But, you're giving me the better team with the better weapons at -1.5. I'm going to take the points with the Chiefs. Obviously, the Dolphins, they have better receiving threats, but I think the combination of Mahomes, Pacheco, and Kelsey is just too much for that Dolphins defense. They have not looked good against top-tier NFL competition this year. They lost to the Bills 48-20, and they lost to the Eagles 31-17. So this is sort of a prove-it game for the Dolphins. Most of the teams they've beaten have been under 500. I think the pressure gets to them quite literally and metaphorically, and the Chiefs take this one 28-20.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be a really good one, for sure, to kick off Week 9. So, the 4-4 Vikings. I know Steven. Hopefully, Kirk Cousins is going to be okay. Of course, he's out for the year, which sucks because he had a pretty good year this year. He really did.
Yeah, he really did.
Yeah, Captain Kirk, I think, really proved it his name this year. I think he's gonna be somebody this offseason. A lot of teams are gonna look at for his services for sure. So they're taking on Taylor Heineke because they benched Desmond Ritter, right? The Falcons don't believe in Desmond Ritter now. Which, by the way, that's why I have Justin Fields to the Falcons, but that's another story for another day. Now, if Kirk was healthy, Steven, I was gonna pick the Vikings here. But I just don't know what to think of just Jaren Hall guy at all. Young kid, rookie. Maybe the jitters maybe take him. I don't know. So Heineke at least started giving you some experience here. He obviously played in the wild card against Brady a couple years ago, in which they took, I think, that Buccaneers team to like the fourth quarter and made it competitive. So give me the Falcons here, but I think it's going to be close. It's going to be like a 16-13 type of a game here. On Sunday in Atlanta. So I'll go to my Vikings fan here first, Steven. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, it's interesting. Kirk Cousins obviously not going to be in this game. Taylor Heineke, he was brought up as kind of the backup to the Commanders quarterback Carson Wentz at the time. And, similar origins as Kirk Cousins, kind of like a third-day pick, 4th to 5th round pick. Average to above average athleticism, and he showed up well in some big games, but hasn't been able to win a playoff game yet. So lots of similarities to young Kirko. I think this Falcons offense has a little bit more upside when they have Heineke in, who's a bona fide passer compared to Desmond Ritter. I think that the uncertainty about Jaren Hall is still there. And while I do believe in this kid long term, I really think if we give this guy a chance long term, he could be that next Brock Purdy. He could be like that next Russell Wilson. If you look at some of his college tape, it's impressive. But all in all, with everything we've mentioned, I'm going to have to go with the Falcons here to win it rather close. I think they're a team that's just not designed to put teams away early or blow them out. So give me the Falcons to win here in a grind fest, 25-19. They just barely cover that 5-point or 4.5-point spread.
Yeah, it's 3.5 right now for the Falcons. So that sounds right. What about you, Isaiah, on the Vikings-Falcons game?
First of all, Ben, I want you after the show to clip that moment because that what we just witnessed was a historic moment because Steven the entire week after Cousins' injury was talking about, oh, Jaren Hall is the next big thing. Jaren Hall, I believe in this kid. Before Kirk Cousins got injured, he was talking about, oh, Jaren Hall, we should start Jaren Hall and Nick Mullins. And now it's like, I don't know what to believe in this kid. You know, he's gonna have it.
Well, it's the kid's first game. I think long term he could be the guy. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if the Vikings win this game, but if you're asking me to make a prediction right here today based on his first NFL start, I'm going to go with the Falcons by 6. Yeah, I think like the Falcons at home, even with Kirk Cousins as the quarterback, it was going to be a relatively evenly matched game. Where yeah, the Vikings could win because of the heroics of Captain Comeback and Captain Cousins. But without him, I think you're losing about 10 points here. So I'll take the Falcons against a first start with Jaren Hall. If this game were played 3 weeks later, I might take the Vikings.
And remember, they haven't had Jefferson either, and Jefferson's essentially 85% of their offense.
Steven, I'm just glad that you're putting the damper on the Jaren Hall hype train for now. But in terms of this game, I'm gonna go with the Falcons. I just don't think the Vikings really have a chance in this game because with Kirk Cousins, the defense was already giving up a lot of yards, a lot of points, and you had Kirk Cousins there just to rescue them. Now you don't. So the Falcons, they have a really good running game. Bijan Robinson, I think Algier, I think that's his name. They've been running the ball. Yeah, Algier. They've been running the ball exceptionally well. They don't really have to throw the ball. And, you know, the thing with Tyler Heineke is I'm going to go back to what Skip Bayless said about Tim Tebow. He doesn't put up a lot of godly numbers, but all he does is win games. And that's what you see out of Tyler Heineke. So give me the Falcons to win this game. And, I think the Falcons win it. And I think they win it by – I'm going to go Falcons by 10.
All right, the 1-7 Arizona Cardinals. They don't have Josh Dobbs. He got traded to your Vikings.
Yes, sir.
Steven, but he's probably not going to be ready to go until next week because obviously he just got moved there, trying to learn the playbook still. He's taking on the Browns now. Right now, Deshaun Watson, he's thrown kind of this week, but remember, he tried to play against the Colts a couple weeks ago, and he wasn't right. And then he pretty much said after the game that he pretty much rushed himself a little bit back before than he should have. So I'm anticipating that he's probably going to wait another week, at least one more week. Browns have played pretty good football as of late. Their defense obviously has been very stout. Yes, they lost last week to Seattle, but PJ Walker has been able to keep them in close games. It's a 10-point spread right now. I actually, in my other show, I had the Browns in the lock of the week. So, I mean, hey, you have Clayton Tune as the Cardinals quarterback, kind of similar to what the Vikings have right now. You just really don't know kind of what you're going to get from that Cardinals team. So, yeah, give me the Browns here. I think that running attack from the Browns is really going to help them specifically, and their defense too. So, Steven, what do you think here in terms of this Browns-Cardinals game?
Yeah, don't know too much about Clayton Tune, but that spread has moved, Ben. Last time I bet on it was Browns -8, and it's still of my belief that with PJ Walker and the number one defense in terms of yardage and scoring in the NFL, the Browns are going to be able to close this out, especially with the running back committee that they have right now in Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt. So I'll take the Browns here. in a grinded out game. I think the defense does their job and holds really well. Expect a kind of similar game flow to the Vikings-Packers game last week, where they're going to need some turnovers to kind of hold the Cardinals out of the end zone just because Walker doesn't generate enough offense. But I think I'm going to take the Browns here 23-13 at home against an inferior and tanking Cardinals team.
I like it. All right. So the next matchup we have is the 3-5 Rams. Rams are coming off of a big blowout loss to Dallas last week. The Packers are coming off of a loss against your Vikings, actually, Steven.
Right.
The thing about the Rams, and I was thinking about taking it because I haven't been a big believer of this Packers team. I was telling this out to Isaiah before, Steven, you came on the air. But the thing that worries me, and the reason why I'm going with the Packers, is the thumb injury to Matthew Stafford. I really don't know how he's going to be able to grip the football, especially in cold weather in Lambeau Field. The Packers right now specifically are a 3-point favorite. I think it's going to be like a 20-17 type of a game. Jordan Love hasn't really kind of given you much this year specifically. And I told Isaiah this. Ever since September 24th, Jordan Love has at least thrown one interception from now until this point in time, which to me specifically means that he's throwing it into harm's way. The Rams defense, yeah, it's given up a ton of points as of late, but they're a team that could definitely cause turnovers still. So I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to come down to the thumb injury of Matthew Stafford, and that would be my overall conclusion. So, Isaiah, Rams or Packers?
I'm going to go with the Packers. They're at home, Lambeau Field. It's going to be cold in this game. Matthew Stafford, like you mentioned, he can't grip the football. I don't think that he should even be playing. I think they should play the backup in this game. Who's the backup? John Wolford, right?
Nope, Brett Rippon.
Brett Rippon, okay.
Yeah, John Wolford, actually, speaking of John Wolford, he was going to go to, I forgot what team he was going to get claimed by. I think it might have been possibly even the Rams, but he wanted to stay at Tampa. So that's where he is right now. So that was the latest with Wolford, but go ahead.
I think Jordan Love bounces back in this game. I know there's been reports that, the Packers are unsure if he's the guy and this and that. Dude, you drafted him.
I hope he does.
Yeah, I mean, you drafted him in the first round. You sat him for 3 years, and then after 8 games, you're gonna be like, I don't know if he's the guy. Like, come on, man. You spent too much for him to not be the guy. So he has to be the guy for you. I think he bounces back. He's looked good early in the season. He hasn't looked good now. He's kind of going through the slump that Brock Purdy is going through right now. So I think with Matthew Stafford not being 100%, not even being 50% healthy, and that Rams defense, they've kind of been inconsistent all year long. I think you're going to see a lot of running with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, and I think both those two guys will carry the Packers to the win. So give me Green Bay. It's going to be it's going to be a close, running game, defensive slugfest type of a game.
What about you, Steven? Who do you have in this Rams-Packers matchup?
Speaking of quarterbacks that have thrown a lot of interceptions recently, I think Mahomes has actually thrown an interception in pretty much almost every game this year. So, maybe even before September 24th compared to Jordan Love. So it just goes to show you that it's been a particularly defensive year for the NFL this season. But with that being said, I'm going to have to go with the Packers here in a really close one. I think the Packers take it. I want to say 21-17. I think what you and Isaiah said is they have a good running back committee in Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. The receivers are still solid. And I think Jordan Love, he's shown that, for the most part, he can be the guy that doesn't save or wreck the game most of the time. Obviously, the Vikings game, he had multiple opportunities to make some pinpoint throws and missed on them, and the game could have been a lot closer. But I think, one more week to prepare at Lambeau Field, cold elements, Stafford not, 100%. I think the Packers, even at 2-5 and slipping down in the standings a bit, they have a get-right game here against the Rams. And one of the not-so-talked-about storylines so far, guys, has been that Cooper Kupp has not really been himself recently. And I'm not just talking about, Maybe this has something to do with the injury, but not just the injury. He's been dropping quite a few catchable passes. And as a result, the Rams have had to be quite one-dimensional in the pass game in terms of spamming the ball to Puka Nacua. I think the Packers do just enough to kind of take him out of the game and force Kupp and Nacua out of their comfort zone in the cold. And I think they take this one in a close defensive grinded-out fest, similar to what we saw on Thursday Night Football. Give me the Packers 21-17.
All right. The 2-6 Chicago Bears. Now the Bears obviously have had a long season, right? They've been starting this. I'm trying to remember this kid's name, Tyson Bagent. He's been in their quarterback the last couple weeks here. Now Justin Fields did go back to practice today. There's reports out that Justin Fields returns today to practice. However, I think that the Bears hold him till next week because they had a short week. Thursday against the Panthers, which, by the way, guys, could be up for draft. It's going to be more of the draft tankathon type of game. So be ready for that because, just be ready. They're going to go take on the Saints at 4-4. Now, the Saints obviously are coming off of the win against the Colts last week. The Saints are an 8.5 favorite. Give me the Saints here. I don't see the Bears having any chance in this one. Even if Justin Fields did have a chance to somehow play in this one, I don't see him being 100%. Obviously the Saints, Derek Carr, things played fairly decent football, I'd say, as of late. They've used Kamara, they've used Michael Thomas. Their defense obviously will probably be okay in this one here. So, give me the Saints 28-14. What about you, Steven?
Yeah, this is going to be indoors in the Mercedes Superdome. Carr has played particularly well in that stadium. And I think the Saints have kind of shown you since last week, the performance against the Colts. Carr was largely excellent in it. That, as a more rugged Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, he can step up to the plate and win this division. The games he's needed to win, he's kept pace and kept ahead of that division. It just feels like, the Falcons make their run, the Bucs make their run. But it feels like one of those things where at the end of the day, that Carr is going to deliver when it counts. The guy's led the league in fourth quarter comebacks since 2015 when he entered the league. And he's shown the ability to be able to beat opponents that he needs to beat. Obviously, he struggles against some of the top tier competition of the league, but that is not the Bears. I think Bagent, has kind of a semi-impressive game to try to keep up with Carr. But give me the Saints here to take it 31-20. I think Derek Carr has another get-right game for the second week in a row. Carr is probably going to get around 280 yards, 3 TDs, and a pick. And he's really going to dominate the Bears defense and the Saints offense to win this game.
And what about you, Isaiah?
Derek Carr is going to look like Patrick Mahomes in this game. You can absolutely book that right now.
There you go.
The Bears defense is absolutely putrid, dude. If Derek Carr wasn't playing, I might call up Dennis Allen and ask if I could go on the field and toss some passes because that defense is so bad, both against the run and against the pass. So Derek Carr is going to look amazing in this game. The Bears, their defense just won't give them a chance. And with that Saints defense, which I believe will have a big lead in this game, going up against Bagent in that loud Superdome, it's a tough environment for anybody to play, let alone a rookie. Give me the Saints. The Saints will blow out the Bears in this game.
Okay, we have one of the big marquee matchups of the weekend. We have the 5-2 Seahawks going to Baltimore to take on the 6-2 Ravens. The Ravens are a 6-point favorite. The Seahawks are coming off of a win against the Browns last week, and the Ravens are coming off a win against the Cardinals. Lamar Jackson, guys, has been excellent this year. I think he's been one of the most underrated talk stories, I feel like. The Ravens' offense has been really good this year. Lamar obviously hasn't been, throwing, a ton of passing yards. But the thing about Lamar this year, guys, he's only thrown for 4 interceptions. Three interceptions. He's been able to keep the ball out of harm's way, which I think is massive for him. The running game, of course, Gus Edwards was great last week. Odell Beckham, Zay Flowers. They've been using, of course, a lot of their receivers, complementary wise. Got a good offensive line, and their defense has played pretty good as well too. Seattle, Geno Smith, yeah, they're kind of been an up and down type team. They're 5-2. They've won their last 2 games. They've kind of scored in the low to mid 20s. So give me the Ravens here. It's at their place. Remember, guys, Seattle had to go to Cincy. Traveling from West Coast to Midwest, East Coast is obviously very tough for teams. It's more of a 10 a.m. type game for the teams that's on the West Coast. So I'm going to go with the Ravens, sorry. The Ravens here by the final of 27-17. I think that they'll have a touchdown at the end late to pull the game out. So what do you think of this game, Isaiah?
I've never believed in Seattle. I've never believed in Geno Smith. I just think that with the Seahawks, I don't really believe in their defense, and that's a problem because their run defense is not really that good. And the Ravens are a really good rushing team. And Lamar has improved throwing the football. I'll give him credit for that. Because before the season, before the draft, I actually made a prediction that Lamar wouldn't even be the quarterback of the Ravens. I said Stetson Bennett will be the quarterback of the Ravens, and that take is definitely not aged that well. But give me the Ravens. Like you said, West Coast teams traveling East Coast teams, that's always tough. Plus, it's a 10 a.m. I mean, yeah, you're starting at 10 a.m. on the West Coast. That's really tough. And then for the Seahawks, can't really stop the run. The pass defense is kind of suspect as well. The Ravens defense is very good against the run as well. So that's a bad combination because Seattle likes to run the football. So give me the Ravens in this game. I think the Ravens win this game about 27-17.
What about you, Steven?
Yeah, I think the one thing that you guys have keyed in on, and I know that Isaiah had his piece about Geno Smith, is that when he's shown to be the guy to kind of hero ball and win in this shootout, he's not been able to do it consistently. Obviously, he did it against the Lions on the road, but against the Niners and Brock Purdy in the playoffs last year, he couldn't win that kind of game. But at the same time, I got to give a lot of credit to the Seahawks defense. They have stepped up to the plate, and they've proven that they can go head-to-head with some of the top competition out there. An example is they played the Bengals to a 17-13 loss where Geno had the ball in the red zone to try and take the lead in the game right there and just punch the heart right out of the Bengals. So I think they have quite a lot of film on the Ravens. I know that Lamar is 16-1 against NFC opponents right now in the regular season. Mm-hmm. Obviously never been to a Super Bowl. But given all of that, I think the way that the Ravens dominated the Lions, the way that the Ravens have been playing so far, I expect them to have a bit more of a challenging test this week. I just don't buy that they can continue dominating all the competition, but they are the better team. I think in crunch time, I'm going to trust Lamar Jackson and that run game with Gus Edwards over the Seahawks and their run game with Kenneth Walker. So give me the Ravens here, dual threat run game. Nice passer in Lamar, who led the league in yardage passing in 2020, does just enough plays to win it 27-23. But I think the Seahawks show out in this game, and they compete with the best of them.
All right. The 3-5 Washington Commanders traveled to Foxborough to take on the 2-6 Patriots. Like I mentioned, guys, I will be there in attendance. Looking forward to it. I missed the place for sure. The Patriots are a 3-point favorite. The over-under in this game is 41. Now, the Patriots, despite them being 2-6, guys, in the last 3 weeks, they've scored at least 17 or more points every single one. The problem has been they've been playing a lot of elite competition. They've also had some key turnovers, including with Mac Jones. But the thing about Commanders is, yes, they just moved on from Montrezl Sweat and Chase Young, 2 of their big-time defensive tackles, 2 of their best premier rushers. And Sam Howell is one of the highest sacked quarterbacks in football. And at the Patriots, specifically their front, could be able to get some rushing on Sam Howell. I think for the Commanders, this could be a game where they could give the Patriots some opportunities. And like last week with the Patriots, they had some opportunities on Tua. They didn't cash in at the end, and they just got tired out, especially at the end with the Waddle touchdown. So crazy enough, guys, the the Patriots, despite them being 2-6 and the Commanders being 3-5. Yeah, the Commanders scored 31 plus points, I think, against the Eagles last week. But I'm gonna go with the Patriots here. I think it's gonna be a close one, obviously. But I think that the defense makes a couple plays on a quarterback like Sam Howell, which I think for Bill Belichick, these are the type of quarterbacks that Bill's really comfortable with. Kind of some really first to second type tier quarterbacks, really young quarterbacks. And yeah, they have Terry McLaurin, they have Jahan Dotson, they have Logan Thomas. They have some really good overall complementary pieces, but the receiving cores that the Pats have had to go with the last couple of weeks has just been absolutely insane. I think that this week it's kind of a get right game. They know to do that it could be the last really big Bill Belichick type of feel. Like if you lose this one, I mean, there's already been reports of him potentially being out the door this offseason. It's painful for me to say. So I'm in attendance. My overall record, knock on wood, has been fairly pretty good. The game I went to last year was, of course, the Marcus Jones punt return one. Hopefully, there's actually some offensive scores in this one to see, which I think there will be. Give me the Pats here and a close one, 24-17. How about you, Isaiah?
This game is a really tough game to pick, if I'm being honest, because on one end you have the Patriots who have struggled offensively, but have really good defense. Though sometimes the problem with the Patriots is sometimes the defense doesn't come to play, like against the Saints. The Saints offense going into that game, they weren't really that good, and then the Patriots made the Saints offense look like one of the best in the NFL. So I don't know which team will show up. Is it going to be, and it's the same with the quarterback. I don't know which Mac Jones is going to show up. Is it going to be the Mac Jones against the Saints in Dallas, or is it going to be the Mac Jones against the Buffalo Bills the other week? So, and then for the Commanders, they just traded a bunch of their players. Are their players going to come out ready to play? I don't know. Chase Young and Sweat were two of the best defensive linemen in their defense, so that definitely affects them for sure. I think Mac Jones is actually going to have a really good day because the defense, I feel like, won't be able to get after Mac Jones. And then for the Commander side, Sam Howell, credit to him. He's been playing a lot of good football recently.
He's underrated.
Yeah, he is very underrated.
Nobody talks about him.
I think he's a decent quarterback. I think he's kind of like a poor man's version of Brock Purdy in a way where he's like doesn't really turn the football over, makes really good decisions, get the ball out quick. So that's something you need to be successful in the NFL. But having said that, it's in New England. I'm actually going to go with the Patriots to win this game. I think if the Commanders hadn't traded their players last week, I think that I might have went with the Commanders, but I just don't see the defense getting up to play. They're already disgruntled. They're tired after that was before they traded everybody, and then they traded everybody. So give me the Patriots to win this game. I think Mac Jones has a really solid day, and he leads New England to a much-needed win, and they go to 3-6 because if you're 2-7, yikes.
And Isaiah, really quickly before I go to Steven, some really quick stats about the Commanders. They're 28th in third down efficiency percentage, which means that they get sacked. Sam Howell gets sacked a lot. That's on top of that. So I think for the Patriots specifically is just to maximize their opportunities on their offensive side. And the last couple of weeks when they've had chances to have short fields, they've been able to at least execute more in points compared to what they had earlier on in the season when they got blown out the last couple of weeks against the Cowboys and Saints. So that's kind of something to kind of take in mind.
And I do think that the Commanders' offense, though, will have success against the Patriots because Eric Bieniemy is a very good offensive coach, and he's from the Chiefs. And remember, the Chiefs have had a lot of success against Bill Belichick's defenses in the past, and he knows how to scheme up players to be successful. So I do think they'll put up points, but I just don't think that their defense will hold up.
All right, Steven, what do you think of this game?
Yeah, this is going to be a challenging one to pick. Like, I agree with you guys. But I think one thing that Bill Belichick and the Patriots have shown is that, sorry to Colin Cowherd here, they're actually quite good at defending the big, trunky, and coastal quarterbacks. The way that they played Josh Allen and gave Mac Jones the opportunity to lead that game-winning drive, had it not been for a fumble, you wouldn't need that. The way that they've played them throughout the years and the way that they've played some of these bigger mobile quarterbacks and particularly younger quarterbacks. has been impressive. Bill Belichick has a really, really impressive resume against like first year and second year quarterbacks, along with some of those, bigger mobile quarterbacks as well. So, with all that being said, I'm going to take the Patriots here. Again, just like the score prediction that I gave earlier for the Packers, I think this is a team that's trending in a similar direction. They don't have super clarity at quarterback or on their offense, but I think they make just enough plays on both the offensive side and the defensive side of the ball. They play some nice complementary football here to keep their season alive and win this game 21-17. And I'll say this last thing, Ben. Last night or this morning, however you want to put it, I guess I'll say last night since we're past midnight here in Central Time. I had a dream. I had this really weird dream that the Patriots had gone on a win streak just during one of these afternoon games, and they had drawn their record all the way to 500. I'm like, could that be a preview of things to come for this Patriots team? Everything is kind of burning and reeling backwards. All of a sudden, you string together, 3 wins in a row, one at the Commanders, one against the Colts, both at home, and then you beat the Giants. All of a sudden, you're heading into that Chargers game at 5-6. Maybe a sign of things to come. But I did have a little weird dream there, Ben, that the Patriots either drew enough wins in a row to get back to 500 under the play of Mac Jones and that defense, or they were just one game below.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing about it is now they're going to have to be doing it without pretty much their top receiver, and Kendrick Bourne, as he is officially out for the season due to a torn ACL. So that, of course, pretty much, any type of comeback hopes for that. I feel like that just, and I obviously know with Isaiah because he was a former Niner, so obviously he kind of can relate for sure. But especially in a contract year, going to be free agent at the end of the year, that's just one guy that, man, they couldn't afford to lose specifically. But hopefully you're right, Steven. I mean, hopefully that, because I said at 3-5 the Broncos, he's like, oh, they're back. So if the Pats somehow made it 3-5, does that mean that we're going to be back too? I don't think so. But
wait, are the Patriots 2-5 or are they 2-6?
They're 2-6, but their next
2-6, right.
3 matchups are against the Commanders this week, the Colts next week, both at home, and then the Giants on the road. So if they manage to win all 3 of those games, knock on wood, they will be right back into the playoff discussion.
How will Gardner Minshew and Tommy, I don't know his last name,
Tommy DeVito or Daniel Jones?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually going to that Pats at Giants game, so heck, maybe just me being in attendance might start a little bit of the come up here. But like the Patriots had a lot of really tough quarterbacks around the season. Remember, guys, Jalen Hurts, Tua twice. They had Josh Allen once. They had even Derek Carr. I mean, Derek Carr is not even amazing, but pretty solid, right? So, now they're kind of facing some quarterbacks, kind of a little bit younger type of quarterbacks that maybe Bill Belichick can kind of help out a little bit. The Patriots kind of get back on a run here, but they obviously have to start Sunday, so we'll have to see. All right, the last 1:00 game here. The Buccaneers are taking on the Texans. 2, 3, and 4 teams. The Texans are a 2.5 favorite. Man, I picked them. So from our other show, guys, I actually picked the Buccaneers here. CJ Stroud, our guy Steven, has kind of actually been a little bit shaky as of late. So obviously kind of he's sitting on a little bit of that wall right now, which of course was bound to happen. Early on, the first couple weeks, he had a 66. He was in the high 60s in terms of his completion percentage. The last couple weeks, he's been within the 40 to 50 range. Yeah, he had a 66 completion percentage this past week against Carolina. But I think the Buccaneers defense finds enough to scheme up him. And I think it's going to be a really low-scoring game, running ability. But I think it's going to come down to defense. Baker Mayfield obviously hasn't been playing as well the last couple weeks as kind of early on the season. It's kind of the Baker Mayfield experience just for you. Not enough good, but not enough bad. It's just kind of eh. So give me the Bucs, though. I think that they pull this game out. What about you, Steven?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Bucs here. I'll take them 23-17. I think you have a Texans team now that's kind of reeling on the offensive side of the ball. A little bit more film on C.J. Stroud now, so I'll take the Bucs to take it here. They're sliding down. They need this game badly at home, and they need it to keep pace with both the Saints and the Falcons, who are going to be getting softer matchups here this week. So with that being said, I think Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, you still got a very solid receiving core and running back in that team. So I'll take the Falcons, or I'll take the Buccaneers to win it in a physical matchup here, 23-17. A lot of unders are going to hit this week, Ben.
Yeah, for sure. The over-under in that game is 40. How about you, Isaiah?
Oh, I don't know. I don't really like this matchup, to be honest with you. Buccaneers and
I don't blame
Texans.
you.
I mean, you have Stroud. I mean, Stroud's good, but the Texans as a whole is eh. Then you have the Buccaneers led by Baker Mayfield. And I know I did once say that I would rather have Baker Mayfield over Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, but
Oh, my God. Oh, wait. Wasn't that promo video, right?
it was.
I remember that.
Oh,
The young Isaiah back in the day. Yeah.
oh my
I
God.
remember that.
But yeah, I mean, I would, I'm gonna go with the Texans. I think that that offense, they've been really good under Bobby Slowick. Stroud has been really good. The Buccaneers are really good at stopping the run, not so good at the pass, which plays to Stroud's strengths. And then on defense, I mean, the defense has been able to get after quarterbacks recently, and they've been really, really good at stopping the run. So give me the Texans in Houston. H-Town hasn't really had a lot to celebrate lately, so give me the Texans to beat the Buccaneers. I don't really believe in the Bucs. I just think they're kind of like that type of mid team.
All right. Now let's get to the 4 o'clock slate, 425, 405. The 3-5 Colts. The Colts are coming off of a loss to the Saints last week, and the Panthers are coming off of their first one of the season. The Panthers, obviously, they were bound to win one, but I still don't have a lot of belief in terms of their overall team this year. The Colts, yeah, they haven't been great. Think about this, guys. The Colts have given up 35-plus points in the last 3 weeks, their defense specifically. It's been pretty rough for them, that Colts defense right now. But that being said, they're taking on Bryce Young and that young overall Panthers offense. I think that specifically that the Colts defense comes to play in this one. So give me the Colts in a really tough one here. I'm going to go 27-24. I think Gardner Minshew throws for 2 touchdowns but 2 picks. Bryce Young plays a pretty solid game against the Colts defense that's given up a lot of points, but somebody's going to have to win at the end. I think the Colts pull it out right at the end there. So what about you, Isaiah?
Ooh, another a game that's interesting because both teams are bad, but both teams have actually kind of been sneaky good in terms of close games. Give me the Panthers. I think they bounced back. They've been in a lot of games this season. They just haven't won the close games, and they're kind of that team that's learning how to win, and they finally got the first one under their belt. So give me the Panthers. I think Bryce Young has a really good day because the Colts defense hasn't been that great this season. The Colts have been good at running the football. The Panthers have not been good against defending the run, so I think Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss has a great day. But I think a late Gardner Minshew pick will seal the deal for the Indianapolis Colts and give the Panthers the win. So give me the Panthers, but I do think it's going to be a higher scoring game. I'm going to go Panthers 31-27. I think we're going to not see a lot of defense in this game. It's going to be a lot of offense because both of these two coaches, Frank Reich, Shane Steichen, they're from the Nick Sirianni coaching tree. And, Frank Reich was, or Sirianni was from the Frank Reich coaching tree. Shane Steichen coached under Sirianni, who's from the Frank Reich coaching tree. So there's a lot of connections there. So they both kind of run similar offenses. So I do think that you're going to see a lot of scoring in this game.
And what about you, Steven? Who do you have in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to have to break the tie over here, and I'll go with Gardner Minshew and the Colts. I think that the Colts have a more experienced hand at quarterback. you have the guy that Brock Purdy was compared to when he was first drafted, actually.
Hmm.
And I think that the Colts have just had some unfortunate luck slip kind of against them the past 2 weeks, facing off against, PJ Walker and Deshaun Watson, losing on some questionable calls against the Browns, and then facing off against a fired up Derek Carr and the Saints. But I think the difference in this game is you just have a more experienced quarterback at the helm with the Colts. And with the Panthers, they're riding high off their first win. Their confidence is going to be high, but it's tough to win multiple games in this league as a rookie quarterback and multiple games back to back. So I'll take the Colts to win. Ben, I'm going to go with your score prediction 27-24. Gardner Minshew and the Colts hold off a furious late rally by the Panthers and close it out with a win to go to 4-5.
All right, guys. We now have one of the worst games of the slate. Tommy DeVito, guys. Tommy DeVito. Do you guys get to take a look specifically of how he played and reserve for Tyrod Taylor? So he went 2 of 7 for -1 yard passing. They had no trust in him in terms of throwing the football. He got sacked more than he threw for passing yards. And he had a 39.6 QBR rating against the Jets. In a game where essentially the Jets were it was essentially a game where it was kind of like hot potato in a way. Nobody wanted to win that game, and they just had no trust in him. They're taking on the Raiders. Jimmy G got benched this week. Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler are gone and out of there. So I'm going to go with the Raiders. I think, for the Raiders, it's kind of new, fresh blood with Antonio Pierce there. Remember, guys, Antonio Pierce, linebacker, I think played for the Giants in the past. So I think that there's a little bit of experience there. Aiden O'Connell's going to reserve it. I like Aiden O'Connell's playing preseason. Yeah, it's only preseason. But I think that I trust the Raiders and their overall playmakers right now. If I had to pick between either of these sides over the Giants, because the Giants just having a hard time with a lot of things. Their defense, moving the football now, Tommy DeVito. Yeah, give me the Raiders. How about you, Isaiah?
Give me the Raiders to win this game. New coach. It's going to re-energize the entire building. McDaniels is gone. The stink is gone. So give me the Raiders. I think Devontae Adams has a good day. I think Aiden O'Connell will have his Brock Purdy breakout moment in this game. I think he's going to have a really good game. Giants defense hasn't been that great this entire season. It's a good soft landing spot for him. And here's a guy that's going to have a great game because McDaniels is gone and McDaniels used him the wrong way. Hunter Renfrow. If you have Hunter Renfrow in fantasy, or if you don't have him in fantasy, because I know that a lot of people do not have Hunter Renfrow on their fantasy team, go and pick this dude up. I don't know why I'm leaking fantasy information because Ben and Steven are in my league, which does me no good. But pick Hunter Renfrow up because this dude is about to go on a resurgence after McDaniels is gone. So give me the Raiders to win this game. I don't believe in the Giants. DeVito, he showed he's not that good. The Giants haven't been able to run the football this entire season. The defense just traded Leonard Williams, who was their top player on the defense, and he's not. And the defense with him wasn't that good anyway. So, I just don't believe in the Giants. I think the Giants are about to head into a 4-win season, maybe even a 5-win season. Who knows? But they're going to be one of the teams that's going to be picking in the top of the NFL draft this upcoming year. And do not be shocked if Brian Daboll gets fired, because if Bill Belichick is out there, and Bill Belichick, like we talked about earlier in the show, he loves the Giants organization. If he's out there, I expect them fully to go get him.
How about you, Steven? Who do you have in this Raiders-Giants game?
Well, actually,
this travesty.
This is going to be travesty of a game, obviously, but this is breaking news. But Daniel Jones has actually been a full participant in practice since this past Wednesday. So actually, he's going to get the start against the Raiders. And right now, the Raiders are still favored by about 1.5 points here. But, they say that a new coaching staff and New blood is going to fire up a team sometimes. I just think it's not going to come quick enough. Give me Big Blue here. I think Daniel Jones is motivated to prove some of the critics wrong. I think he comes back strong after not rushing his recovery and getting some much needed help from Tyrod Taylor and some much needed non help from DeVito. I think Daniel Jones has a big day here. I'll give him about 200 to 250 passing yards, 2 TDs, 1 pick. And I'll take the Giants in a comeback effort here to win 20 to 14.
I'm picking up Hunter Renfrow right now as we speak.
Well, Steven, that does definitely change things. That if Daniel Jones is playing, I might have to maybe lean myself towards the other side. But as of right now,
Go Big Blue.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But I have the Raiders for right now. All right, now we go from a travesty game to some of the big time matchups at the end slate. Starting with the
Thank
Cowboys
God.
and Eagles, the NFC East, the NFC heavyweights. Dallas, obviously, you can like or hate them, but they've been playing pretty good football. They're second in points per game. In terms of Eagles, they are, in terms of points per game, they are third. So you have essentially two teams that are scoring in the high 20s. This is going to be an absolute offensive shootout, but it's in Philly. Philly plays really well at home. Dallas does not play well. I was actually one of the guys on my other show was saying that Dak Prescott does not play well in elements specifically, and I agree with them. Not playing well essentially in like homes, like domes specifically. Dak Prescott doesn't play. Remember him going to San Fran, Sunday Night Football. He looked like a shell of himself. Now he's going to go to Philly. I'm going to go with the Eagles here. Yeah, you could say, well, Jalen Hurts hasn't been great, and he hasn't been great in terms of for his standards. But remember, guys, Jalen Hurts just came up with a 4-touchdown game last week against Washington. A.J. Brown got involved a lot. You feed A.J. Brown, let him cook, and good things will happen. And remember, guys, too, Julio Jones, he got a touchdown last week for the Eagles as well. Imagine if Julio Jones starts to cook up a little bit as our third receiver there. And, of course, oh, yeah, by the way, they have a really good running attack with their offensive line. So give me the Eagles to win. They're going to go to 8-1. Cowboys going to go to 5-3. I'm going to go start with you, Steven. Who do you have in this one?
Yeah, I agree here. I think in primetime matchups, we've seen that Dak Prescott is not the one to kind of deliver consistently. And while this is not going to be like necessarily the primetime matchup, on the road, tough elements. Jalen Hurts, they've proven to be really tough this year. Not every game's been pretty, but they played well against the Dolphins. They're the only one-loss team left in the NFL, and I think that they do a good job of containing CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson in the passing game to win this game. I'll take the Eagles to kind of run away in this one, guys. 27-14. And I think the X factor in this game is going to be, can Brandon Cook step up and be the receiver one for this game? Because the Eagles are going to do everything they can to take away CeeDee Lamb. Can Brandon Cooks kind of return to his old form and play some hero ball here? Because if Brandon Cooks has a big game, that could be the recipe for the Cowboys to actually take this game away from the Eagles and take control of that division. Also, look out for Pollard. Pollard is going to need to have a big game, especially on the receiving end of the field for this game.
And remember, too, guys, that Kevin Byard is going to make his debut with the Eagles probably this weekend, and that should help their secondary a lot as well. All right, Isaiah, what about you? Who do you have in this matchup?
I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys. I think they go into Philly and win this game. This is going to be one of the best games of the weekend. I can't wait for it. I wish it was on Sunday night, but hey, you got the Bills and Bengals. That's also going to be another good game to watch. But I got the Cowboys winning this game. I think that Dak Prescott, he hasn't played well in these outside elements, but against the Eagles, he's always played well, especially in Philly. So I do think that he has a good game against the Eagles. Like Steven mentioned, Pollard's going to have a big game, and I think he will because the Eagles' defense has actually dropped off against the run. And Jalen Carter, the guy in the middle, the stalwart rookie in the middle, he's always been that guy to shut down the run. Well, he's got a back injury, and I don't know if he's going to play in this game. That's a big loss for them. And then in terms of the Cowboys defense, I don't think the Eagles have faced a defense as good as the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys can get you over on the edges. They can get you in the middle. Their secondary has been not so great ever since Diggs left, or he tore his ACL. But still, they have a lot of weapons there in that secondary. So this stretch for the Eagles, Ben and Steven, it's very tough because like now they have the Dolphins a couple of weeks ago. They lost to the Jets 3 weeks ago. But now you look at, you got Cowboys, you got Kansas City, you got the Bills, you got the Niners, and you got the Cowboys coming up. And then you got the Seahawks in Seattle the week before Christmas, before you end the season with the Giants twice and the Cardinals as well. So this is a stretch that will make or break the Eagles, because right now Philadelphia's got one loss on the season, but I could easily see them after this 6-game, I believe it is, 6-game stretch. I could see them having 4 to 5 losses, because you're playing the Chiefs in Kansas City, you're playing Josh Allen and the Bills, you're playing the Niners, you're playing Dallas in Dallas, and then also Dallas a couple of times. They're playing in Seattle. I mean, this is the stretch right here, and this is where we will know what the Eagles are made of. And Jalen Hurts is going to be going up against some really good quarterbacks and some really good defenses coming up. So give me the Cowboys to win this game. Dallas should have won the game last year against the Eagles, but Dak wasn't healthy. But I think they get revenge and win it this year.
All right. The game of the weekend that everybody's waiting for. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills go to Cincinnati. Remember, guys, last year, heartbreaking, the DeMar Hamlin situation. This will be a game I think that a lot of people will take a big remembrance about, taking their time to kind of remember kind of what transpired last year. So beforehand, just obviously take a quick moment to kind of reflect and just kind of take a quick overall prayer for it, because it was really tough to watch. I remember obviously myself actually being in Florida during that game, because I was on vacation. I think it was around Christmas break, and just my overall thoughts in that game. From what was going to be an absolute shootout of the game to that. But then remember, guys, the Bengals went to Buffalo during the playoffs last year. The Bengals got the best of the Bills last year. So now the thing is, guys, and Tyler Boyd said some interesting comments, guys, this week. He said the Bills specifically lost the game because of the elements. Remember, guys, they played in the snow last year. They lost because of that weather. I don't know. But now, they're planning on, playing probably fine weather elements, I think, for this Sunday night, probably. The Bills obviously haven't been as great the last couple of weeks here, guys. Remember, they had to squeak out a win against Tampa. And by the way, if Chris Godwin turned around his head on the Hail Mary, who knows, right? They lost to my Patriots. The Patriots haven't been great. Mac Jones had a comeback drive against them, and not a knock on Mac Jones, but that's a little bit embarrassing for the Bills side. And then even before that, the Giants game the week before, they literally were within inches of losing that game if Darren Waller didn't have that play right at the end zone. So the Bills, the last 3 weeks, 2 of the 3 wins that they won, but they were absolutely uncomfortable. Like, they haven't been able to close games out well at all, this Bills team. You look at Cincinnati. This is a team that's starting to find its groove, right? Joe Burrow and company. I know Isaiah with that smiling face because he thought that the calf injury, this or that. Steven, if you want to say that Isaiah loses again, by all means, that's fine on my show. But Joe Burrow, guys, in the last 3 weeks, he has 8 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, which means to me right now that that's the Joe Burrow that we're accustomed to seeing. He's thrown for both of these games, at least 2 of the 3 games, 250-plus passing yards with at least 2 touchdowns. Actually, the last 3 weeks, guys, he's thrown for at least 2 touchdowns in each of them. Buffalo's defense has definitely missed the presence of Matt Milano and Tre'Davious White. So I think that running attack for the Bengals is going to really open up that play action for their receivers with Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins. Give me the Bengals here. I think it's going to be 38-31. I think it's going to be a touchdown game. The spread line right now is 1.5. And Steven, I don't know if you can attest to me, but the over under right now is 50.5. So I don't know if you could feel maybe that over under right now is probably fair enough. It probably is. I probably think it's going to be in the high scoring for sure. So both defense specific are going to get their battles tested for sure. So what do you think in this one? In this Bills Bengals game. I will start with you, Steven.
Yeah,
I
I
got
think
the
this is
Bengals
going
by
to
the way.
be. Yeah, I think 50.5 is nailing it right on the head. That's
Yeah.
kind of where I expect this game total to be. But yeah, like last year's game, DeMar Hamlin goes down in the regular season, and then earlier this year, but technically last season, you had the Bengals kind of dominate the Bills in the snow. But before this, we talk about this game. I don't want to hear no lousy excuses, Ben Isaiah or Josh Allen or anything from the Bills. You played at your home field, and you're telling me you
Exactly.
lost because of the snow in the playoffs. I mean, are you going to tell me that you guys lost to Kirk Cousins and the Vikings? You like that because in the regular season because of the snow? You lost to an indoor stadium team. Like I know they're from Minnesota, but they're an indoor team. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hear no excuses for this game. This game is going to have all the makings of two Super Bowl contenders in a rubber match. And while the Bills have kind of disappointed in some of these big games, like you look at the opening week loss against the Jets, you look at the loss at London against the Jaguars, they have been able to show up for some of these games as well, like the Dolphins game. But I think similar to the Dolphins, the Bills have a big game problem. Josh Allen, he has a big game problem. And I think when it comes down to it, you've got to trust Joe Burrow in these big games, especially with how healthy and how loose he's looked over these past couple of weeks. So give me the Bengals here to, take this game, cover the spread in a mid to high scoring match, 27-24. They get it done at home at Paul Brown Stadium.
And what about you, Isaiah? Who do you have in this heavyweight battle?
Oh wow. You know what? I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna go with the Buffalo Bills to win this game on a late interception by Taylor Rapp. That's who I'm gonna go wins this game. I think this is the game that Rapp breaks out as one of the best safeties in all of football. But in terms of the offensive side of it, Josh Allen, he wants revenge and he will get his revenge. The Bengals defense has been all right. They haven't been that great. But this is going to be two great quarterbacks going at it. A lot of offenses between these two teams going after it. Give me the Bills to win it. I like what Seth had to say. I'm going to go with that score, actually. I think it's 38-35. I think it comes down to a game-winning field goal at the buzzers. I mean, yeah, to be 38-35, Burrow throws a game-losing interception.
We'll have to see about that. And then to finalize the Week 9 slate here, guys, we got the 3-4 loss Angeles Chargers at 3-4. They're coming off of a win against the Bears. The Jets are coming off of the win against the Giants. They are playing at MetLife on Monday Night Football. Right now, the spread in this one is 3.5 for the Chargers. The thing about this game, guys, is it's going to be close because the Chargers have the better talent, I think, offensively. But their coaching, I trust Robert Saleh more than Brandon Staley, especially in late game situations, closing games. I think the Jets defense is better than the Chargers. I pretty much do. I don't think the Chargers defense is that great specifically. So I think that Zach Wilson can be able to make some plays in this game, and their running attack with Breece Hall can be able to make some plays in this one. But I think Justin Herbert does enough in this one to pull it out. I have 24-21 Chargers. I think it's going to come down to the final drive of the game and a field goal. And the Chargers go to 4-4 despite their bad coaching. So what about you, Steven, in this one?
This is going to be another tough matchup in MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. The Jets have a lot of momentum from winning the Battle of New Jersey. and taking that game 13-10. Zach Wilson's kind of riding a high right now. And one thing, Ben and Isaiah, is that one thing I've noticed is that I think elite teams have kind of struggled against the Jets as of late. You look at
Yep.
how they battled the Bills in week 1 and took that game away, and then how they, kind of just took the battle to Jalen Hurts in that high-powered offense. And I think week 7 or week 7, I believe, took that game away from the Eagles. The Jets have looked quite impressive as of late. So with all that being said, I'm going to take the Jets to win outright here. I'll take the Jets to win 20-17. It just seems like they have had the formula to beat the passing-based offenses. And you'll just need a heavy dose of the ground attack to really, stymie this Jets team that's now kind of in a groove with Zach Wilson at quarterback. As hard as that is to say, I think this 3.5 spread is a little too selfish. I think at most the Chargers win by a field goal, but give me the Jets because they've beaten the Bills, they've beaten the Eagles at home this year, and without Aaron Rodgers, I think that trend continues in their ability to stop high-powered offenses and passing attacks.
I remember too, Steven, too, that they were in the game to win against the Chiefs too. They picked up
Exactly.
Yep. So you definitely hit the nail on the head there, where the Jets' defense hasn't been the issue. It's been the ability for that offense without Rodgers to maintain drives consistently, and it's just not been there. I mean, you saw the game against the Giants, their defense, right? I don't think it was the Giants' defense being absolutely incredible. I think it was just being Zach Wilson specifically has specifically moments where it takes a while for him to kind of get going. And there's just times that's just not been consistent. You know what you can get out of Aaron Rodgers because he's been there, done that, but you don't know that with Zach Wilson. And you don't know specifically in terms of that offensive line, specifically Vera Tucker's out. Becton obviously is very hurt here and there. So you just don't know consistently about the offense, but you always obviously know every single week that defense is going to give it their all. And they have the coaching to do it too. The defensive minded type coach and Robert Saleh. So yeah, about to see. All right, Isaiah, last pick of the week 9 slate. We'll go to you.
I'm going to go with the Chargers. I think that the Jets defense will be able to hold them down, but not too long, because when you don't have an offense and your offense is always going 3 and out or always punting the football, the defense gets tired. And I think with the offense of the Chargers, yeah, you can hold them down for some time, but you can't hold them down for a long time. And I think Justin Herbert's eventually going to break through and ball out. So I think that's what's going to happen. Give me the Chargers to win this game about 24-10. I don't believe in Zach Wilson's ability to move the football, and that's going to cost them because that defense is just going to get tired, and then the dam is going to break towards the end, and Justin Herbert's going to ball out towards the end of the game. He might not start fast, but he's going to come on strong late in that game.
All right, and that will conclude, guys, for the week 9 slate. We do have some comments here. I really appreciate all the comments throughout the slate. We had Seth here at release of the 49ers. Eagles win from Seth 31-30. Seth also said, I think the Eagles win 4-6 in the stretch, but you're right, Isaiah. It's a tough road ahead for Philly. He also said 38-35, I think, for the game of Bengals, and then predictions for Alabama LSU. We will talk about that probably at the end. We will talk about that specifically there. All right, guys, let's quickly do a little quickly for NBA. The season kind of come underway. We won't pretty much talk a lot about the season, right? Because there's not really a lot to talk about yet. So I just got 2 questions for you guys so far. The first question is, how do you feel about the season so far? I know Isaiah's obviously ready to go. Any early kind of thoughts, at least for me specifically so far, is how about them Celtics? The Celtics right now look like, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but man, that team right now has been helping my pain of the Patriots go by fairly quickly, because they look like a team that's out for revenge. And I know it's only 4 games so far, but they just scored 155 points in a basketball game the other night against the Pacers. Who, by the way, guys, the Pacers I think are going to give some teams some hell this year. They have Halliburton, and I know he was out the other night, but Miles Turner's been pretty good. Uh, um, they got Buddy Hield still around. So the Celtics, I mean, if they stay healthy, that's a big knock on wood. The other bench play has been kind of on and off right now, but Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, guys, has helped a ton. And not a talk on Marcus Smart, but he could just open up everything offensively. And you're seeing too Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. I mean, the Celtics right now, kind of just my team so far. They've just been absolutely incredible. Now let's look at the Lakers, Isaiah, because we have you on. The Lakers have been pretty good. They're 3-2. I gotta give them where credit's due. That game against the Clippers the other night was incredible. That was fantastic to watch. Back and forth battle. You had Paul George going off. You had Kawhi Leonard going off. And now you have James Harden coming into the fold to have the party there too. So the West is just going to get more stacked and stacked. And Russell Westbrook, I think, guys, has found a home. I know that people want to clown him for how he played with the Lakers, but he's done pretty well with the Clippers. I'm not going to lie. So that was a great game. I want to roll out a Clippers-Lakers preview for the playoffs. I really, really want to roll that out. That would be a really fun playoffs. Of course, the Battle of LA. Anthony Davis was incredible the other night. D'Angelo Russell, 27 points. And Austin Reeves had a really good one. The Lakers guys, they're 3 wins that came against Phoenix, Orlando, and the Clippers. So, yeah, I mean, they played really hard against Denver. They played pretty hard against Sacramento. So, yeah, your Lakers, Isaiah, have been pretty good so far. In terms of your Wolves, Steven, the Wolves are 2-2.
Par for the
They
course.
actually beat the Nuggets the other night. That's pretty impressive. And then they beat the Heat. Their losses were against Toronto and Atlanta. Okay. So, I mean, playoff caliber type teams that are probably going to be at the end of it, playing teams. So I'll let my talking come to an end here. I'll let you guys do the talking now. I'll go to Isaiah here. And I know Isaiah. Actually, my second question. I didn't have my second question. What do you guys think of this in-season tournament? It's early this year. Do you guys feel like this is going to be something that is going to be beneficial for these players? And do you guys feel too that it's going to be something that's a one-off, or do you feel like the NBA is going to continue with this for the next couple of years?
Well, first of all, I'm going to give my takeaways from this NBA season before I get to that tournament. My number one takeaway from this season is that credit to Brad Stevens and the Boston Celtics. I think they did something that Bill Belichick and Bill Walsh, the legendary Niners coach, did, which is get rid of players when a lot of people think that, why are you getting rid of them? But they get rid of them when it's before they start showing signs of that they're going down. And what I mean by that is Brad Stevens might have just pulled a Bill Belichick and got rid of a player in Marcus Smart too early before his downfall. And we're seeing that in Memphis now. Marcus Smart looks like he's lost a step or two. I mean, this dude has been rated as one of the worst defenders in basketball. The Grizzlies are 0-5. They're desperately missing John Moran. And today I read something on Twitter that you had anonymous Grizzlies just criticizing Marcus Smart, saying he's not the guy that we thought that he would be when he got here. So that's like that. There's a lot of chaos there in Memphis. The Grizzlies, Marcus Smart being trashed by a lot of the Grizzlies anonymously right now. Yeah, there's a lot of chaos in Memphis, and I think that now looking back, Porzingis is playing at a really high level, and Smart is out on the court, and everybody's like, he's not the same guy. People are blowing by him. Like, the Celtics might have just gotten rid of him at the right time before his downfall. So credit to Brad Stevens and the Celtics. The Grizzlies are in a whole world of trouble because I don't think even if Morant comes back, you're 0-6. You're in last place in the Western Conference, but behind the Rockets and the Jazz and all these teams out there.
Yeah, I think the Grizzlies are in a whole world of trouble, and Taylor Jenkins, he needs to step it up before, if you are, let's say in December, let's say you're sitting there like potentially 4-12 or 4-16. I could see him being out of there in Memphis because they're just off to a really bad start. But the Grizzlies are in a really big trouble right now. The Oklahoma City Thunder fellas are coming. And I told you guys this before the season. They're going to be a top 3 seed in the West. But my gosh, Chet Holmgren has looked amazing out there. Today I saw Draymond Green out there. He nearly put Draymond Green into a retirement home in the last game. I mean, that kid, what he's doing out there on the court. Josh Giddey, what he's doing. Lou Dort had, I think, 30 points in this game tonight. SGA didn't have a big factor, and the Thunder went toe-to-toe with the Warriors, and arguably you could say they should have won that game. But, I mean, the Thunder are coming. They are a really good team. They're really exciting. Can't wait to watch the rest of the season. The other one is, the other, I would say the biggest takeaways from the season is the Spurs. I mean, Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, holy smokes! I forgot to mention him.
That guy looks
cheat code.
Dude, that guy is a cheat code. You're right. He's a cheat code.
Holy crap!
That guy. Everybody was talking about how his floor is LeBron and Giannis player of all time, and I know Steven was one of the guys saying slow your roll on him and stuff like that. He might end up being better than Jordan if we're being serious. Like, yeah, I'm not talking about ring. I'm talking about in terms of talent. Like, this kid can shoot the ball from 3. He's 7'4". He's blocking shots out of nowhere. He could dunk. Over 3 people. I mean, it's crazy what this can do. If this kid can stay healthy, he legitimately has the tools to be the greatest player in NBA history. And the Spurs, I think they can make the playoffs this year in the West because they've got a really good group. And Wemby, I mean, that kid is just. He's unguardable right now in the NBA, and he's only going to get better. And the last couple of takeaways that I have is that the Orlando Magic are a team that's on the rise as well. They have a lot of these young guys that are playing outstanding basketball, like Wagner and Banchero. They're playing very well. So good to see them playing good. And the last takeaway that I have from this NBA season thus far is these NBA refs all need to be replaced, man. I mean, tonight, these guys out there, it looked like they were wearing this blue mask out there reffing that game against the Thunder. Are you kidding me? That's not a goaltend when he clearly touched the rim. What a disgrace of a call that was on the basketball floor tonight. I mean, and it's not just this game that we're seeing bad refs. We're seeing bad refs. They're not even calling egregious flopping. Like the other night against the Clippers, Austin Reeves had one where he was just dribbling the ball, and the guy didn't even touch him. He missed his face, and Reeves just he flopped on the floor. And, I think there's a new rule now in the NBA where you're supposed to get a flop or you're supposed to get a technical for any flop that's egregious. I like Austin Reeves, but come on, that's a flop right there. Like the guy punched him in the face when he barely didn't even touch him. So the refs have just been awful this season, whether it's in-game calls, whether it's not calling flops, like it's just been god awful. And tonight, I mean, they determined that game, and you're not supposed to have refs determine that game or determine any games, but the refs just determined that game, and it was just really sad to see. Maybe Ben and Steven, maybe instead of the refs should just all wear blue face masks to ref games now because they clearly can't do it with their own eyes.
And what about the in-season tournament too, Isaiah? How do you feel about that?
You know what? I wasn't a big fan of it coming into this in-season tournament, but it's because I felt like I didn't get it because I thought all of them were going to be playing in Vegas or whatever, but it's only going to be the semifinals and the finals. That I just feel like is just kind of not really that good. But they're all playing in their own home courts. The courts, by the way, I don't know if you guys have seen it.
Yeah.
Like some of the courts that are out there, they are sick. Like
crazy.
Thunder one, the Pacers one. I think the Celtics one is also really nice. The Lakers one is also really nice as well. Like the courts are just so sick and so nice. The one that I don't really like is the Bulls one because it's like a pool of blood out there on
It looks like a really like dark red Jolly Rancher. You know, like the Jolly Rancher
yeah.
flavor. That's like
Like
the Bulls.
well,
Yeah,
it's
I like
hard to see the players too.
like the hot tamales, the candy hot tamales. It just looks like the
Yeah.
Bulls right now. So
It's like
I
a
agree.
poor imitation of the Youngstown State red field or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
like
Steven, I'll go to you unless you're not done yet. I say.
oh no, I was just gonna say like I like the tournament. I think that it's breeding a lot of competition right now. But I just some of the courts are just really sick. So I like that. And one more thing before I give it to Steven is I want to throw out Seth Johnson Ford's comment. I don't know if he's a Wizards fan or not, but he said that the Wizards are literally the meme team of the NBA. Kuzma and Poole as your top players. LOL. They have been making tons of Shaq and a Fu moments this season. They have. Like, those two guys are like, I saw Kuzma the other day pulling up from like 40 feet and he airballed the three. And then Jordan Poole like dribbled against Porzingis. He backed up and then he went back to the line and he got blocked.
Yeah.
They're a funny team to watch.
Yeah, they're a team that's gonna be in the cellar for this year. All right, Steven, how about you? Your overall thoughts of the season so far. You could talk about your team if you want to, and then of course your overall thoughts so far in this in-season tournament that is planning to be for the next couple of weeks here of the season.
Yeah, so I think the in-season tournament, it's going to be a good thing for the young guys to get some minutes. Obviously, some of the veterans, they might not be able to play throughout the regular season and throughout the in-season tournament at 100%. And I believe the top prize is about $500,000 per player for the winning team in Vegas. So, think about it. If you're sitting on the bench there, you're making the vet min like 1.2 mil a year, whatever it is now, or you're making like a like rookie minimum even, or like a kind of early career scale contract where you're making 800K to 1.5 mil a year. That's a lot of money for you. 500K per player to be rewarded to a winning team. So there is some financial incentive. There is still some extrinsic incentive for the younger guys to get out there and ball out to win that in-season tournament. But I think like it's not going to be something that's going to be looked kindly upon for the veterans long term. So I will say that with that being said and keeping that in mind, I think the in-season tournament is going to phase out eventually just because the older guys, the veterans, are not going to want to have to play extra basketball or do extra traveling, even if it is to Vegas. So it's a cool and funky concept, and I love the NBA trying new things and borrowing from other sports. I just don't know if it's going to stand the test of time. Then the other thing is back to the Wizards comment here about Kuzma and Poole. Pretty funny. I think it's cool to have two of kind of the younger players in this league get thrown into the fire, kind of like how Westbrook and Beal did, to have to be the guy on the Wizards. So maybe getting more touches there, they'll be able to refine their game and kind of build their stardom over time. The other big takeaways from the NBA here are that Kristaps Porzingis and Wembanyama have been as good as advertised. You talk about two of the kind of more slender big men in the NBA, and granted, not everybody can be Shaq or Zion Williamson or Ben Wallace coming into the league, but I think under the right tutelage and system, a lot of these like more slender big men, like the KGs of the world, Chet Holmgren, Porzingis, and Wembanyama, they can make impacts, and with the right coaching and tutelage, they can make a lot of physical and mental improvements within their game, not even related to like dribbling and shooting the basketball itself. And we've seen Wembanyama and Porzingis get kind of stronger over the years, and they're going to have to continue to do that if their teams hope to make deep runs in the playoffs in the future. Obviously, the Celtics more so in the near future than the Spurs. The other thing I got to say, Ben, is I got to give a lot of credit for the Celtics. They went out in the offseason, they got the help they needed. And I think at a macro level, this has kind of expanded their championship window to be these next couple of seasons where you really got to kind of win it. But before, like, I felt like this team had kind of lost itself. It kind of drained its soul by blowing so many big shots in the conference finals and finals to win it all. But now there just seems to be new life in this team. And I got to give so much credit for the Celtics management in those like early years of Tatum and Brown. There was so much pressure, Ben and Isaiah, on the organization to try to compete with Golden State or LeBron on the Cavs. There's so much pressure for them to go after Paul George, Anthony Davis, Jimmy Butler. But this team, they believed in the young core. They believed in Jason Tatum. They believed what they were building with Jaylen Brown and even Marcus Smart back then, even though he's gone. They believed in what they had in Al Horford and other veteran presence out there. And they kept at it. They just developed their guys in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, the main guys, and some other supporting cast as well. And look at them now. They're one of the front runners to win the entire thing, let alone the East. Like, if this thing keeps up, I might have to pick the Nuggets over the Nuggets and the Celtics as my two finals teams rather than the Nuggets and the Bucks. But, you know, a few games in, let's relax a little. I still got the Bucks right now. But I'm just saying, man, like, it looks like the Celtics profited a lot more from the trades than the Bucks did. And credit to management. They just never make a rush decision. So much pressure. Go get Lillard. Go get Butler. Go get Davis. Go get Paul George. They never did it. They developed internally, and they pulled the trigger when they needed to do it. So all the credit in the world goes to the Celtics. Lastly, with my Timberwolves, I see some progress. I see that Anthony Edwards is starting to emerge into that superstar. But one thing that's been a little disappointing is they haven't been able to turn around the close games yet. Early into the season, that was one of my bold predictions, that the Wolves would move up to a 4th or 5th seed and be able to really close in on their close losses like the Vikings did from 21 to 22. Not yet, but impressive wins nonetheless against the Heat and the Nuggets. So look for the Timberwolves to kind of be one of those teams that kind of peaks mid to late season. And Ben, they're shipping up to Boston right now, the Believers. And, so keep at it, you know, and trust the real process over there.
Steven, we'll be playing your Timberwolves actually this coming Monday. So you guys will get a good glimpse in terms of us on Monday night. So we'll see about that. Seth has some other comments really quickly before we get into some final thoughts here. Seth did say, I am a Wizards fan, Isaiah. The last 5 years have been rough. I need to drink every game and watch. Heck, I mean, hey, he admitted it. So he also said, stop complaining.
Thank you, Seth.
That was a goaltend. You're right on Josh Giddey. Seth also said the Mavs look great with Kyrie and Luka. You know, early on so far, you got to give some props, but we'll have to see about that. And then he also said, what are your all thoughts on James Harden's comments? Philly tried to put me in a system. I'm not a system player. I am the system. Yeah.
Did he actually say that?
Yeah, he did. So really quickly before we get to final thoughts, James Harden had his presser, I guess, in terms of his trade to the Clippers, for those that don't know. And he asked, I think, about his overall role with the team. And he said that Philly tried to put me in a system. Remember, guys, he hasn't been talking with Daryl Morey for a long time, and he doesn't plan to. So there is definitely a lot of rift between him and that front office about his overall role there. But the fact that he's saying that I'm not a system player and I am the system, Kendrick Perkins said it best. And I'm not the biggest Kendrick Perkins fan in terms of an analyst. You essentially are the team system behind Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. You are not your own system. You are the team system. And I don't know if you guys agree with me or not, but that's essentially what it should be coming down to.
He is a system. He's a loser system. That's what he is. We've seen this time and time again. He single-handedly lost the Sixers that series against Boston last year when he went like, what was it, like 0 for something down the stretch.
He was awful.
In game 6. Awful, yeah. And like, we've seen it before. I mean, this dude just takes the ball and then he thinks he plays hero ball and then he just bricks a bunch of threes. And this is exactly why he doesn't have a
championship ring, because it's the same thing like Westbrook was when he was with the Lakers before Westbrook finally like humbled himself and said, okay, fine, I'm not the same player I once was. We can't win the way I'm playing. So he bought into the Clippers system. So I mean, I just think these are just really selfish statements by James Harden. I don't know if Steven has anything to add, but I think these are really selfish statements by James Harden. It just goes to show you that this is exactly why you're not a champion.
Yeah, I will say that that's pretty much hit the nail on the head of why James Harden is not a champion. But I would say that, he also blew it against the Warriors in the 2018 Rockets Warriors series. He went all the way to Game 7 and just chucked up a bunch of three-pointers and mid-range shots that just didn't go down. So, you live by the Harden, die by the Harden. I do think that if Philly was going to, and same with the Clippers, if you're going to bring in James Harden, I do think you have to make him the system, because he is that kind of player where he is just so ball dominant. He needs to have the ball in his hands, and he plays within flow. So, like, if you're going to bring him in, like, you kind of know what you signed up for. And this is going to be, his fourth team. It's going to be like his third team in recent memory, from the Nets to the Sixers to the Clippers. I hope it works out for him, but I'm not holding my breath here. I think, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Paul George, similar problem as Phoenix. Like, who's going to handle the ball? Who's going to shoot the ball? Like, there's not two balls on the court at one time. This is not some like kids camp AAU practice at like 2 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon, all right, in the summer. This is NBA basketball. But I will say one thing about this. One thing that might make James Harden's worth in the Clippers really, really well is that Kawhi Leonard and Paul George do have injury problems. So I think like down the stretch, if one or both of them goes down, now that you have a James Harden and you run into like another series like you did against the Suns or the Warriors, where one or two of your stars are down, now all of a sudden you could not only be competitive in that series but win it. Whereas before they won game one against Phoenix and then they blew 4 games in a row. That's not going to happen if you have a James Harden in your building. So I think that's where it does help. The problem is I feel like he's more of a detractor than a help when the team is fully healthy.
All right, we'll talk more in our next show about some NBA stuff outside of just kind of our thoughts. We'll go through the standings, we'll go through some players and stuff like that, all that fun stuff. With that being said, guys, that's going to be our final thoughts now. What a great show for tonight. It's obviously been a little bit this week in terms of a lot of stuff during sports, a little busy stuff specifically in our weeks specifically. Hopefully you guys have a good weekend. I know I will for sure. Got a lot of great stuff we want to talk about. For me specifically, I'm excited for college football tomorrow and football on Sunday. 2 days of football. I can't wait to be in attendance on Sunday for an actual football game, NFL game, Patriots game. I'll be curious to see about this new lighthouse, which I did see at training camp, but actually for a game day, will probably look pretty cool. And then Monday you have college basketball, then you have free agency and baseball. So I just can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun sports coming up this whole weekend. For me, guys, really quickly, I'm going to put up prediction. I know somebody asked about the Alabama LSU. Give me Bama. It's a night game, so I'm going to go with Bama here in a close one. And then the game I'm looking for in college as well, too, is Michael Penix against Caleb Williams. I'm excited for that one. A game that I don't think a lot of people are giving a lot of props for, but you got two quarterbacks that are going to go in top 10. I'm really high on Penix specifically this year. I know USC's defense is awful. They were so bad defensively, that USC team. They didn't give up like 30-plus points to Cal or something.
49.
Yeah. So I don't know if USC is going to win this one, but I'm excited for just that overall quarterback matchup there. There's going to be a lot of fun games. Even Missouri, Georgia. I think Missouri can even give Georgia a little bit of a game there too. So I'm excited for that. So I'll take it away to you guys. Great show for tonight. And I'll let you guys take it from here. So I'll go to you, Isaiah, for your final thoughts.
Yeah, what a great show tonight. We kind of planned this last minute and it was a really phenomenal show. Ben, I hope you have a great time at the Patriots game. I hope it's
Thanks.
actually a good game, not a, boring blowout like the Saints game.
Mm.
But yeah, I hope it's a great game. Steven, thanks for hopping on, even though I know you hopped on just to spite me about that Thunder loss, even though that should have been a win.
You
But
know
we'll
it.
talk about that a different day. Um, but yeah, I mean, great show tonight. Alabama LSU prediction. Alabama tomorrow night, fellas. It's going to be a great game. You have Brian Kelly versus Nick Saban, two teams that badly need this, number 1 and 2 in the SEC West. Whoever wins this wins the SEC West, I believe. So that's going to be a great showdown. But Alabama will be taking the letter of LSU's name. The L tomorrow. Give me LSU to win this. You have a high-powered offense in LSU. Alabama's offense has been mediocre. Their defense has been good. This reminds me of the Broncos Seahawks Super Bowl back in 2014, where you have a great offense versus a great defense. But this time in college sports, the offense always wins. So give me LSU to win this. They've been putting up like 40 points a game. They're not going to put up 40. They're going to put up 30. 34-20 LSU wins this tomorrow night in Tuscaloosa. So that's my prediction, Seth. Thanks for tuning in tonight. But my final thoughts is we're entering into a great time in sports. Great college football games coming up, great NFL games coming up in November, and the holidays are coming up as well. Christmas time, Thanksgiving. It's a great time to start playing Christmas music now. So, and plus, we got the daylight savings time coming up, I think tomorrow, where we have to reset the clocks back. So it's going to get dark earlier now, and it's truly going to feel like winter for sure. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. And the last thing I'll say is, beware, guys. The Texas Rangers are about to be the dynasty in baseball, and people are already talking about them being the model organization. They're about to shift back some of the thinking in baseball, where spending money now is the key to winning championships, not analytics, not prospects, none of that stuff. Spending money and old school is about to be back in baseball.
And Steven,
Yeah.
I didn't get the chance to ever ask you this, but I know you probably are aware, even though you're not the biggest of a baseball fan, but Shohei Ohtani is, of course, going to be the biggest name, going to be open for free agency next week. I'll go to your final thoughts, specifically in terms of what you want to say, but who do you have Shohei Ohtani going to this offseason? Because I know I've asked Loro this, I've asked you, Isaiah, where he's going, but I want to hear from you, Steven. Where do you think Shohei Ohtani's going?
I'm gonna have to, I hate to do this, but I'm gonna have to go with Loro's prediction that
Oh, I
Shohei
do too.
Ohtani is headed to the Dodgers. I think that, he's built a professional and personal life in the LA area. Obviously, Anaheim and LA aren't exactly the same. There's a lot of good culture around LA as well. Particularly Japanese and Asian culture, which I think will play somewhat of a factor. And talk about the most important thing, a baseball winning culture that will maximize his talents and abilities. They've got that too in actual LA with the Dodgers. So give me Shohei Ohtani going to the Dodgers. He's going to get that max deal. They're going to spend whatever they need to get Shohei Ohtani. But to go to my final thoughts, it's been an excellent show, guys. I'm glad to have even been able to join it partway through. Some of the most confident picks that I have this week, like I think the Kansas City Chiefs beating the Dolphins, my take to the bank predictions, you could say. The Colts -2.5 against the Panthers, I think is a really, really good pick right now. And then I'll also take the Browns to really beat down on the Cardinals with their backup quarterback. So, and then in college, I have some bold predictions there too. I think Alabama does beat LSU. Sorry, Isaiah. I don't think LSU upsets them back-to-back years in a row. This game is going to be in Alabama. They've already avenged their loss last year to Tennessee. And, Alabama is just, they are the best team in the nation when it comes to bouncing back from one loss. Like, how many times, Ben, over the past like 10, 15 years have you seen like The Alabama Crimson Tide, they lose one game, and then they just win out their entire season. Last year, they came one
many
game
times.
short of doing it. They
Yeah.
came like 2-point conversion short of being able to win out their whole schedule. This
Yep.
year, like, I think they're going to be able to do it. Like, do I think they're going to beat Georgia in the start of the postseason, so to speak,
No.
the SEC title game? No, but I think they're going to go 11-1, and then potentially 11-2 when it's all said and done. They're going to take care of business for the rest of their regular season schedule, because Nick Saban teams, I'm telling you, when they get that first loss, they just become so hungry. It's like Ohio State too. Like, when Ohio State teams lose one game, the next like 5 or 6 games, they just look like the best team in the nation. And Jalen Milroe is, he is emerging as a backdoor Heisman candidate. This guy's got some wheels to him. Does he have like the Justin Fields or CJ Stroud type of arm or Trevor Lawrence? No. But he's just like Kyle McCord. He just finds a way to win. He finds a way to deliver in the clutch. Doesn't matter the score. All of a sudden, you look back and a 10-point lead becomes an Alabama 11-point lead, 10-point deficit, I should say. Or Alabama needs 3 points, he gets you 7 with his legs. It's just McCord and Milroe have been the two clutchest quarterbacks in college football this season, and they just have continued to deliver. So now let's move to the next clutch quarterback, Kyle McCord and the Buckeyes.
Let's go.
Ben
Number
Isaiah,
one.
I think Ohio State goes in and they beat Rutgers, but I'm going to put a bold
Tough.
prediction here. I think the Rutgers Scarlet Knights today actually, at 11 a.m. Central Time, I think they come into their own stadium and they take an early lead on the Buckeyes. I think they score the first touchdown of this game. They go up 7-3, 10-3. And here's the reason why. Greg Schiano, you've got a coach who has brought Rutgers back from the dead. At 6-2, they are already bowl eligible. They have their best chance to straight up beat and compete with Ohio State since Urban Meyer took over the Ohio State job. And here's the other thing. He has familiarity with both the NFL systems, which Ryan Day's like an NFL guy, and he has familiarity with Ohio State because he was once their defensive coordinator and linebacker specialist too. So I think that Rutgers takes an early lead through the first quarter. They maintain it, and then Ohio State comes out and pounds them the rest of the game to win by about 14-17. But give me the Rutgers Scarlet Knights to cover the 18.5-point spread, take an early lead, and really put this Buckeyes team to the test. And you want to know why, guys? I think that this Ohio State team right now, at 8-0, sitting at number 1, although the ranking is not the most important thing, I think the program is breathing a huge sigh of relief that they managed to escape not only Notre Dame, but also Penn State and Wisconsin in Camp Randall Stadium. They managed to escape those 3 games, not to mention the tune-up games and the other 5 games, without a single loss. They managed to start their season 8-0 against 3 very tough and capable opponents. I think they're breathing a huge sigh of relief. I think they come into this week, they're looking ahead to the Michigan game, to avenging not only their losses, but the sign-stealing scandal and people calling them soft. And I think Rutgers comes in with all the momentum in the world. And you just know, if you're Greg Schiano, man, and you come in to this game, and I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm giving it a 15% chance. If the Rutgers Scarlet Knights beat the Ohio State Buckeyes this season, like today, I mean, Greg Schiano will be the coach of the year for college football. So this guy is coaching for his life. He's coaching for the program. It's going to be an emotional, sort of half homecoming for him. And Ohio State is going to be riding high off of starting 8-0. But I think Kyle McCord delivers late. I think he shows his poise once again and puts away this game out of reach in the fourth quarter. And the Buckeyes come away with a 14-17-point win. But guys, I'm not going to be super comfortable about this one. So again, my confident picks here: Colts over the Panthers, Browns over the Cardinals. Give me Alabama over LSU. Give me Rutgers to cover against Ohio State. My take it to the bank predictions for this week.
All right. Sounds like Some decent picks there, Steven. Go Buckeyes. Yes, Isaiah, number 1.
OH.
Now in the AP polls. We'll have to see about that because, listen, there's a lot of good head-to-head games this weekend that I think that this coming college football show, there's going to be a lot of turnover. And like you said, Isaiah, this is now the time where football, the matches start to begin because the playoffs picture will start to kick in a little bit. You'll kind of start to see the fraudulent teams that we all like to talk about kind of start to kick in here and there. So we'll have to see. But what we'll have to see now is the next time we'll be back all on here. The channel, like I mentioned, guys, make sure to like, subscribe to all of our stuff on the MI6 IM6 Network. Thank you guys all for joining. The comments I got tonight were amazing. Make sure you obviously to tune in for our next show. Isaiah also commented that we're planning to have targeting to have an MLB season wrap-up show for Batter Up next week, next Wednesday possibly. So make sure to key in on that. We'll go through all that stuff next Saturday. Thank you. So make sure to key in on that regardless. And all, just like I said, the comments and stuff, and all the viewers, thank you guys all for joining on that. So without further ado, we are going to go now to our outro. Before we get into our outro, Stephen Wayne, Isaiah Leon, this has been Kruse signing off for Kicking It with Kruse. Let's go Buckeyes tomorrow. Stephen, for you, Isaiah, best of luck. Oh, your Niners are not even playing this weekend, but best of luck to all the teams that you're rooting for, supporting, whatever. And in terms of my Patriots, best of luck for myself. Hopefully I can bring a win back to Connecticut from Foxborough. All right, guys, signing off and have a great rest of your night.
Oh my God! Big goal to go from the 2. Toss sweep one for James White. Cuts it under the right arm. Cuts it upfield. Driving forward. Diving to the goal line. A touchdown and a title for the Patriots. I can't believe it. Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. 45 remaining. Tatum drives down and throws it down. Bases loaded. 2 out. Hard hitting to right. Back at the wall. Tie game. Big Puppy.
No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Anything's possible.